Marvel, it starts when it links with a great clock of the Super God Academy. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 551, Provocation is also effective. What? Agatha looked at Xiaoyan in surprise. Well, my sister meant that there is a huge gap between you and our mother. After all, our mother is not a big star, Zhao King quickly explained and pulled Agatha back. If she ignored everything and let Agatha and Xiaoyan argue, all the plans would be ruined. Oh, so that's it. Agatha finally felt better after hearing what Zhao King said. But she always felt that Zhao King's words seemed to have other meanings. Their mother is very different from Agatha. Isn't that the same as what Xiaoyan said? How can you compare with my mother? It's just that the way it is said is not quite the same, and the words used are not quite the same. The key lies in a preconceived interpretation. In Xiaoyan's opinion, Agatha is not as good as their mother. But in Agatha's opinion, she is a world-famous big star, and her figure and appearance are definitely the best. The one who can't compare is definitely Xiaoyan's mother. Xiao Qing, you are still as smart as ever. Xianxia understood the meaning inside directly. Zhao King smiled, but did not show it on the surface. Before their goal was achieved, they still had to cover up everything. If you really dare to say that my mother is worse than her, I will tell my mother when I go back and let her beat you, Xiaoyan warned angrily. Zhao King could only smile awkwardly. Well, I still have some things to do, so I won't stay here. You three should rest early, Agatha said. She has now forgotten what her original purpose was. After being retorted by Xiaoyan and Zhao King's explanation, Agatha felt a little dizzy. It was as if there was something she couldn't figure out, which troubled her and made her unable to concentrate on anything. Okay, we will go to rest right away. Xianxia stood up and agreed casually. Okay, then we'll see you tomorrow at the performance, Agatha responded subconsciously, then turned around and walked out of the house. Take care. Xiaoyan waited for Agatha to leave the house, and then immediately closed the door. Agatha, who was outside the house, looked at the door that was directly closed at this moment, and then suddenly realized that the purpose of her original visit was to investigate the life experience of these three little guys. However, she had already come out and the door was closed, and she couldn't find a reason to go back. Forget it, it won't be too late to observe their situation slowly on the stage tomorrow. Agatha could only shake her head helplessly. She felt helpless that her thoughts were unintentionally disturbed by the three little guys today. After being an actor for a long time, she was too concerned about her appearance in order to attract the attention of others, which disturbed her original rationality. Inside the house, Xianxia and the others quickly sensed Agatha's departure. The three of them sat down happily on the sofa at this time, and Xiaoyan laughed directly. Ha ha ha, this Agatha was so easily fooled by us, Xiaoyan said while laughing. They were still worried that Agatha's coming here this time would bring many difficulties to their plan. But now, it was so easy to solve. Agatha has existed as an actor for a long time, and in this world, the relationship between superheroes is relatively more harmonious, so the atmosphere she is in is relatively relaxed. Under such circumstances, it is normal that her judgment of such things is not accurate enough. And her emotions are easily disturbed, Zhao King explained. But no matter what, the purpose of her coming here tonight must be to investigate our true situation. She must have guessed about us, Xianxia said. It was one thing to be easily resolved this time, but it was another thing for Agatha to target them. As long as they were targeted, they would likely reveal flaws, so they had to be very careful in handling every matter that followed. Brother is right. She has already suspected us. We must behave normally in the next thing we do, or we won't reveal any flaws, Zhao King agreed with Xianxia. They escaped once tonight, but it also confirmed that the witch Agatha had begun to suspect them. Don't worry, I will behave normally, Xiaoyan promised. You are the one we are most worried about. Xianxia and Zhao King turned their heads to look at Xiaoyan at the same time. Among the three siblings, Xiaoyan has the most eccentric personality and loves to play tricks the most. If there's any possibility of something happening, it must be Xiaoyan who caused it. You just don't trust me, Xiaoyan said a little depressed. It's not that we don't trust you, but your past performance makes us unable to trust you, Zhao King said. Well, since you don't trust me, I will definitely prove it to you this time. I can definitely hide my identity well. Agatha will never be able to see any flaws from me. Xiaoyan also began to get angry. This is her personality. The less others believe that she can do it well, the more she will do it seriously. Even though she knew that Xianxia and Zhaoqing must be using provocation to provoke her, she would continue to do it. Okay, then we will wait and see, Xianxia said, then stood up and walked towards her room. Well, I will wait and see too, Zhaoqing nodded, then stood up and walked towards her room. I will definitely prove it to you, Xiaoyan said this promise, and then walked towards her room angrily. So, this day passed like this. The next morning, the three of them consciously came to the big stage for the performance, and at this time, many people had already started to take their positions here. For this grand performance, billionaire Howard invested a lot of money, so the staff maintained the stage almost day and night to keep it in the best condition. The actors who were able to participate in the performance were also practicing hard because they wanted to show their faces in front of the world's brightest stars. Xianxia and the others looked at the atmosphere on the scene, but they still acted very casually. They were super soldiers. If they wanted to learn to dance or something, they could just find a tutorial to download and then record it with the Super Gene system. There was no need to practice hard. Moreover, they had to pretend that they didn't understand, so they couldn't perform very well right away. Chapter 552 This is too much of a joke. Soon, Agatha and Jinja also arrived. Howard, as a director and investor, came with them. They were discussing how to make this play better. Agatha soon arrived at the stage. She went straight to Xianxia, Zhaoqing and Xiaoyan. You three should have adapted well last night, Agatha asked with concern. Not bad, Xiaoyan answered naturally. Well, it's good to be able to adapt, Agatha nodded, and then said. Today's performance is very important, and it will definitely be very tiring. If you didn't rest well last night, you won't be able to bear it today. When Agatha said this, there was a strange smile on her face, as if she was teasing and mocking. However, she had a tentative expression last night, and she didn't test anything. Today's expression was a bit too big. It looks like something bad is going to happen. Zhaoqing could feel that the situation they were facing this time might be very bad. We will do whatever she wants to do, Xianxia replied. They had already come here, and it was useless to think about anything else now. We are newcomers, and we are not very skilled in dancing. If we start shooting today, I am afraid we will not do well, Xiaoyan said, as if she was really a newcomer who was just spotted by the director, and she was a little nervous about the situation of going on stage. This was obviously the provocation used by Zhaoqing and Xianxia last night, which made her too happy. It's okay, it doesn't matter if you are not familiar with it. I am a professional. I will take good care of you when the time comes, Agatha said with a smile. Yes, we are professionals. When the time comes, we will focus on the three of you. When the time comes, you just need to cooperate with our actions according to your own ideas. Jinja also came forward. But compared to Agatha's weird smile, Jinji's smile was very sincere. Among the 5 people here, it is estimated that only Jinja really wants to perform well, and the other 4 have their own ulterior motives. Okay, everyone, take your positions. Our show is about to begin. Director Howard's voice came, and the situation on the scene began to adjust immediately. All the dancers had already entered their respective positions, and Agatha and Jinja also returned to their own leading dance lineups. Only Xianxia, Zhaoqing and Xiaoyan were standing in the middle of the stage in a daze. However, today they were all wearing very beautiful clothes, especially Xiaoyan. The princess dress matched her beautiful appearance. Just standing there was enough to attract everyone's attention. The music started, the lights came on, and a large-scale Bollywood-style dance performance began. At the beginning, everything seemed normal. Agatha and Jinja were dancing against each other, and from time to time they teased the 3 people standing in the middle, especially Xiaoyan, who was still actively cooperating with a very unfamiliar dance step. After being provoked by Xianxia and Zhaoqing, Xiaoyan was now extremely excited, just like a young girl who suddenly stepped onto the stage of her dreams. However, the atmosphere behind gradually began to become wrong. During a close-up dance between Agatha and Jinja, Agatha obviously said something to Jinja, and then Jinji's expression changed. However, as a professional actor, he knew clearly what occasion he was in and he needed to maintain his original state, so even if his expression changed, he still tried his best to control the rhythm. However, when they came into contact again, a burst of light burst out from his body, and a wave of energy greeted Agatha. Agatha did not hesitate, raised her hands, and first transformed a shield made of golden energy in her hands. After the shield blocked Jinji's attack, it was transformed into a spear again, forcing Jinji back at once. The two of them broke down in the talk. Yesterday, Jinji actually knew that Agatha had stolen the power of other Eternal members, but at that time, because of the appearance of Xianxia and the others, the situation was deviated. Jinji, who should have made a decision yesterday, went back to rest for another day and thought for a day. Jinji came here today to find out what Agatha's purpose was in obtaining these powers, but just now he suddenly learned from Agatha that Agatha's goal was to destroy the members of the Celestials who were being nurtured on Earth. Jinji was a member of the Eternals, and the purpose of the Eternals coming here was to protect the members of the Celestials, so that they could grow up smoothly and finally realize the God manifestation. Therefore, facing Agatha's request, he would definitely not agree. If the God manifestation begins, the entire Earth will be destroyed, and then the stage of our dreams will be completely destroyed. Don't you care at all? Agatha knew Jinji's weakness. In fact, the other members of the Eternals had already wavered after knowing that the final God manifestation of the Celestials was to destroy the Earth. Why Agatha could absorb the power of so many members of the Eternals so easily was because most of them took the initiative to contribute their power. With the power of some of the Eternals members, plus Agatha's own magic, her strength would be greatly improved, and she could then absorb the power of all the Eternals step by step. In fact, if Jinji really fought, he would definitely not be Agatha's opponent. The reason why Agatha didn't take action directly was because she felt that Jinji was very similar to her and they both had a great interest in acting. Do you really think I will betray the leader Allison and give up the mission I have invested in for a long time? That's impossible. Jinji refused, even though Agatha had given Jinji a very friendly persuasion at this moment, and also showed him how great actors are. I can get Howard to give you another 3 movie contracts, Agatha said. Okay, I'll join. Jinji's answer was extremely decisive. But it was this extremely decisive answer that almost made the 3 Xianxia people who were eating melons on the side stumble and fall down. Can you be more playful? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 553 Exposed. Jinji's reaction surprised the 3 Xianxias, so much so that the 3 who had been pretending well all made serious mistakes. It was this mistake that made Agatha, who was originally communicating with Jinji, immediately turn her attention to the 3 of them. Sure enough, there is something wrong with you 3. Agatha's face showed excitement. In fact, she had already discussed it with Jinji last night, and Jinji also agreed to provide Agatha with his own power. It's just that Agatha didn't absorb Jinji's power last night, because Agatha had noticed the specialness of the 3 Xianxias. She wanted to find out who the 3 Xianxias were and what special they had, so she specially cooperated with the performance today. And the result of the performance was just as she expected. The 3 of Xianxia were really fooled. Huh? What's the problem? Xiaoyan asked back with a confused look on her face. My conversation with Jinji just now seemed normal, but it was actually specially encrypted. Only those with superpowers, or those with magic, could hear it, but you clearly reacted to my conversation with Jinji just now, which means that you can definitely hear it, so, you 3 are not ordinary people, Agatha said. Her words also made Xiaoyan finally put down his disguise. Because everything has been exposed, there is no need for them to continue to disguise. We thought we were well disguised, but we didn't expect you to find out. Sure enough, the 3 of us are still too young and have too little experience. Xianxia shook his head helplessly. The 3 of them are very strong and smart. But no matter how smart a person is, if he doesn't have enough life experience, it is easy for him to make mistakes in some things. This time, the 3 of them underestimated Agatha's keen perception of power and her acting skills. So, who are you 3? Agatha asked. We are just 3 people who came from the universe and passed by here, because we sensed that there is a powerful force here. We came here to take a look, Zhao King answered. He had already made a detailed analysis of the situation on the scene. All the energy structures around here, including the various runes engraved on the ground, were under his observation. In addition, in the dark plane of Zhao King, a special tool was taking effect. It was uploading the supergene data of Zhaoqing, Xiaoyan and Xianxia, ready to transfer itself to other locations in a special way at any time. Because the stage they are on at the moment is actually the center of a huge magic circle. If Agatha wants to control Xianxia and the others based on this magic circle, their power may also be absorbed by Agatha. Therefore, Xianxia and the others must be prepared and must be able to escape in any state when the other party really activates the magic circle. Come from the universe? But your physical characteristics are exactly like those of humans on Earth, Agatha asked in confusion. Who said that there are no people in the universe who are very similar to humans on Earth? On Xander, more than half of the people look exactly like humans on Earth, Xiaoyan answered. Oh, really? Agatha turned her head and looked at Jinzhou. Agatha had never left the Earth, and she was not very clear about what kind of aliens there were in the universe. However, the aliens who had arrived on Earth before were basically different from humans. Even the so-called gods of Asgard had very different physical characteristics from humans, which Agatha could easily sense with her magic. There are indeed many life forms in the universe that are the same as those on Earth, and some even have exactly the same life characteristics. Jinzhou gave an accurate answer. The Eternals often travel to different worlds to guard the birth of members of the Celestial God group. Although their memories of the past are often erased, these useful knowledge will be retained. Okay, Agatha accepted this helplessly. Since you are aliens and just passing by, do you want to provide me with your power? When Agatha said this, she was ready to absorb the power of the three of them. If you really intend to attack the three of us, we will also fight back. Are you sure you want to break up with the three of us completely? When Xianxia said this, his aura was completely released. Without the disguise, his powerful strength was quickly sensed by Agatha. How is this possible? Sensing Xianxia's powerful strength, Agatha was completely shocked. How could a teenager who looked only 15 or 16 years old have such powerful energy? Even the Eternals, and even Agatha herself who had absorbed the power of 9 Eternals, did not have such powerful energy. What shocked her most was that it was not just Xianxia who had such power. At this time, Zhaoqing and Xiaoyan had also removed their disguises, and the energy levels of the two of them who showed their true power were almost the same as Xianxia. In other words, if Agatha really wanted to take action, she would probably have to face 3 beings who were stronger than the Eternals and even stronger than herself. Moreover, under normal circumstances, a guy who had such power at such a young age would probably have a more powerful backstage. Otherwise, how could 3 teenagers have such powerful power? Even those who are gifted occasionally appear in the universe, but 3 of them appearing at once are definitely not born. We are just passing by. If you don't move us, we won't disturb you. But if you really want to attack us, then we will have no choice but to fight you. Xianxia summoned the sword of Xianxia in his hand while speaking. The moment the sword of Xianxia appeared, a powerful aura spread instantly, even bringing a great sense of oppression to Agatha in front of him. You really won't interfere with me? Agatha was unwilling to fall out with these 3 teenagers after all, at least not now. Therefore, if Xianxia and the others could guarantee not to interfere with her, she would naturally not want to fight with them at this time. We 3 brothers and sisters keep our promises, Xianxia said, and the long sword was retracted. Well, you can leave now. If you stay on this stage, what I am going to do next will be affected, Agatha said. Chapter 554, Response Plan. Xianxia, Zhaoqing and Xiaoyan all left the stage very quickly, and the other dancers also left. At this moment, only Agatha and Jinzhou were left on this huge stage. A golden light began to appear on the stage, and the pictures originally carved on the stage were gradually transformed into runes, which then produced special effects. It is a rune of energy conversion. This formation can help Agatha absorb the energy of others and strengthen herself. Zhaoqing looked at the glowing rune formation below and explained it directly to Xianxia and Xiaoyan. If Agatha had really started this formation at that time, how much impact would it have on us? Xianxia asked. He needed to know the exact situation from Zhaoqing. By communicating with this space wormhole in a special way and then quickly transferring the sacred atoms, we can avoid the influence of this formation without any harm, but in that case, the hundreds of people who were also on the stage at that time would be affected by the formation and die completely, Zhaoqing said. At that time, he was ready to communicate with this space wormhole at any time and prepare for the 3 of them to teleport away at the same time. The reason why they didn't do it directly was that none of the 3 siblings wanted to see so many innocent people die in vain. Are we really going to stand here and watch Agatha absorb Jinji's power without doing anything? Xiaoyan asked. Agatha absorbed Jinji's power, and it was obviously Jinjie who agreed to it, otherwise Jinjie wouldn't have cooperated with Agatha to play the scene just now to trick us into exposing it, Zhao King said. Our original purpose was to investigate what Agatha's real purpose was, and once she had absorbed Jinji's power, the next step would definitely be what she had been planning to do. Zhao King's analysis was the reason why Xianxia chose to stay put. I guess Agatha's real target is most likely the members of the Celestial God group who are being nurtured inside the earth, Xianxia said. Brother, do you mean that she wants to absorb the power of the members of the Celestial God group? Zhao King's expression became slightly shocked. Absorbing the power of the members of the Celestial God group is nothing strange. Our father has the genes of the Celestial Gods in his body, and he has also strengthened the power of the Celestial Gods to an extremely terrifying degree through the Celestial Gods' unique way of absorbing life energy, isn't it? Xianxia has always felt that people can do anything to gain power. As long as there is confidence in the realization of the plan, as long as the benefits after the plan is realized are large enough, then even if it offends some people afterwards, there may be some dangers, it doesn't matter. If she really wants to absorb the power of the members of the Celestial God group, it will be a good thing for the earth, Xiaoyan said. The members of the Celestial God group are bred on the earth, and after the bread is completed, they will realize the God by destroying the earth. Our super God civilization once went to war with the Celestial God group because of this matter. Xiaoyan was very interested in the history of the super God civilization, so Xiaoyan remembered the major events that had happened in these super God civilizations very clearly. I am afraid that Agatha's goal is not to save the earth, but simply to absorb power in this way. Xianxia immediately said the most important information. They still couldn't tell whether Agatha wanted to save the earth, but they could directly prove that Agatha strengthened herself by absorbing the power of others. A person who becomes stronger by absorbing the power of others will continue to sink into this process in the future. After all, who would be willing to spend time and effort to fight for something that can be easily obtained? We have to be prepared. If she absorbs the power of the Celestials and attacks us, we must be able to fight her, Xianxia reminded. The most special thing about Agatha's ability is that she can absorb the power of others and transform it into her own. When we fight her, this is also the most important thing to guard against. Zhao King immediately responded to Xianxia's reminder and analyzed her way to fight Agatha for them. From the current situation, her way of absorbing energy needs to be supported by a special magic circle. As long as we don't enter the range of her magic circle, we can avoid being absorbed by her. In addition, her absorption of power will last for a period of time. If someone forcibly intervenes during this period, it should be possible to interrupt it directly. So, during the battle, it is best for the three of us to be in different positions, so that even if her power is very strong, even if she finds an opportunity to absorb the power of one of us, the other two can quickly find an opportunity to rescue the others. Zhao King analyzed the best response method and also explained the entire combat plan. Notify Sultan and let him be ready to support at any time, Xianxia said. If there are any mistakes or omissions among the three of us, resulting in being locked and absorbed by her at the same time, Sultan's appearance can become the key to turning the tide of the battle. Xianxia did not analyze the battle status in such a detailed manner, but he directly gave the most reliable answer. Attack the enemy by surprise. Even if the power on the surface is strong, the opponent may have a plan to deal with it. But the preparations made in secret, even if they are just some small tricks, can sometimes play a crucial role. I understand. I will send a message to Sultan immediately and provide him with the coordinates and transmission code in advance. Then he can understand the situation here in real time, and he can come as soon as any special situation occurs, Zhao King said, and then she started to operate directly. Some relevant instructions and operation codes were quickly transmitted by Zhao King to Sultan, who was sleeping on the island. Sultan immediately understood the importance of the matter after receiving Zhao King's message. Although he was a silly crocodile, Sultan also understood one thing, that is, he had to protect Xianxia and the other three no matter what, because those three were young masters and young ladies. Li Qingyun treated him as a brother. If Xianxia and the other three had any problems because of his relationship, even if Li Qingyun didn't say anything, other people in the super god civilization would blame him. Even Sultan himself couldn't forgive himself. So, he was more serious than ever before. He began to stare at the scene and observe all the situations. Chapter 555 Agatha's True Purpose. At the scene, Agatha's process of absorbing Kingo's power has been completed. At this moment, she felt unprecedentedly powerful. The power of the 10 Eternals superimposed together, greatly increasing Agatha's power. 10 Eternals formed a group to perform the same task. Although the power of the 10 members of the Eternals is similar, their abilities are completely different. 10 different powers superimposed together, just enough to form a perfect lineup. Agatha absorbed the power of the 10 Eternals at the same time, and her own abilities were also fully improved. At this moment, she knelt directly on the ground, her hands suddenly condensed powerful energy, and pressed directly on the ground. As her hands landed, the powerful energy condensed in her body directly flowed into the ground, and it rushed straight to the center of the earth. Sure enough, Agatha's real purpose is to absorb the power of the members of the Celestial Group. Zhao King saw this scene, and all her guesses were confirmed. Their guess was correct. Agatha's purpose was to absorb the power of the Celestial Group, and the Celestial Group would naturally disappear without this power. A major crisis threatening the Earth has been resolved, but I don't know if Agatha will become a new danger, Xianxia said. His eyes were sharp, and he was looking through the bottom layer and observing the situation in the center of the Earth. Agatha's power had already entered the outside of the core of the Earth, and was being blocked by an energy barrier that protected the Celestials. However, with Agatha's current power, it would not be very difficult to break through this energy barrier. Sure enough, everything was just as Xianxia had guessed, and the energy barrier was soon completely broken under Agatha's increased energy output. After the energy barrier was broken, the power of the witch Agatha successfully reached the Celestials, and its energy was quickly fed back to her under the traction of the magic circle. Agatha successfully absorbed the huge energy, and then her body began to expand rapidly. Brother, there is a powerful energy outside the Earth approaching rapidly. Zhao King suddenly turned his head and looked outside the Earth. Powerful energy? What kind of energy? Xianxia was puzzled. At this time, when the witch Agatha was becoming huge because of absorbing the power of the Celestials, what kind of energy could make Zhao King so concerned? From the energy analysis, it seems to be the energy possessed by the members of the Celestial Group. Zhao Qing carefully explored it and then gave an answer. The Celestial Group? It seems that other members of the Celestial Group have noticed the situation on Earth. A pair of wings spread out from behind Xianxia, and he took off directly into the air and flew into space. Zhao Qing and Zhao Yun did not hesitate to open their angel wings and followed Xianxia into space. When the three of them entered space, Agatha also lowered her head and looked at the three of them. You actually have wings and can enter space. Agatha's face was full of curiosity. This was obviously a state of being very interested in Xianxia and the other three, or in other words, this was a state of greed. She also wanted to absorb the power in the bodies of Xianxia and the other three. You still have the mind to care about the three of us, Zhao Yun said sarcastically. What do you mean? Agatha was a little confused. But soon she understood what Zhao Yun meant. Because at this moment, she saw a huge figure approaching rapidly in the distant space. It was one of the leaders of the Celestial Group, Judge Alyssum. He arrived so quickly, which Agatha had known that Judge Alyssum was coming, because when she and Kingo were conspiring yesterday, Judge Alyssum had already known about their situation. However, Judge Alyssum was supposed to be in a very distant universe, and he must have other things to deal with. After all, the Celestials who are responsible for managing the universe should not be the kind of guys who are idle all day. Therefore, in the eyes of Witch Agatha and Kingo, even if Judge Alyssum was going to come, it would probably take 2 or 3 days or even longer. Unexpectedly, they had just finished absorbing the power of the gestating Celestials, and Judge Alyssum had already arrived. This speed caught Agatha off guard. Fortunately, she had just completed the absorption of energy, otherwise she would not have the ability to compete with Judge Alyssum now. Witch Agatha, you have committed a heinous crime. Judge Alyssum stopped in front of Witch Agatha. He was looking at Agatha angrily. The 6 red eyes on his face were staring at Witch Agatha. Come on, I'm just getting the power I need, and I've already done it successfully. Do you think your judgment really works on me? Witch Agatha is not afraid of Judge Alyssum now. Because she not only has the power of the Celestials like Judge Alyssum, but also has her own magical power on the basis of the power of the Celestials, the power of the 10 Eternal Warriors. Witch Agatha is not panicking at all now, and she is not afraid of Judge Alyssum at all. Judge Alyssum was about to blame Agatha again, but when he turned his head, he suddenly paid attention to the 3 teenagers around Witch Agatha, especially seeing the white wings behind these 3 people. Who are you? Judge Aratham suddenly gave up accusing Witch Agatha, and asked Shyansha and the other three. "We are just passing by, and have nothing to do with this matter," Shyansha replied. "You have nothing to do with this matter?" Judge Alasam hesitated, as if he was thinking. "Well, maybe it really has nothing to do with it." Judge Alasam quickly made a decision, and he judged that this matter had nothing to do with the three teenagers. "You just believed what these three little guys said so easily?" The Witch Agatha was shocked. These were three teenagers with superpowers, and they appeared at the scene of the incident. How could Judge Alasam so casually judge that the three of them had nothing to do with this matter? If the three of them really wanted to obtain such power, there was no need to come all the way to this universe, Judge Alasam replied. Huh? Agatha was confused. What do you mean there is no need to come all the way to this universe? Isn't the amount of information in this sentence too much? Chapter 556. They don't need it. I believe them, because they don't need to seize the power of the Celestials like you do, Judge Arazam explained, and it seemed that when facing the problem of Shyansha and the other three, he, the leader of the Celestials who held great power in the universe, became more humane. They don't need it? Why don't they need it? Agatha was even more shocked. This is the power of the Celestials standing at the top of the universe, and each Celestial has a powerful energy of the universe. But even with such a level of power, these three little guys don't need it? Their father, sir, Judge Arazam was about to tell the true identity of Shyansha and the other three, but Shyansha spoke directly and interrupted him. Judge Arazam looked at Shyansha at this time, and after seeing the serious expression on his face, he understood what Shyansha meant. I said they don't need it, so there's no need to explain it to you too much. Judge Arazam didn't say anything more about the life experience of Shyansha and the other three. My purpose of coming here this time is to judge you, Witch Agatha. You forcibly extracted the power of the members of the God group and destroyed the appearance of the God. Your behavior has violated the rights and will of God. I judge you guilty according to the will of the judge, Judge Alasam said. His words were a kind of judgment, a judgment on Witch Agatha. Oh, this again. Witch Agatha was speechless at this moment. Why do you gods and such act so high and mighty, thinking that you can judge everyone? Besides, do you think I don't know what you're deliberately hiding just because you changed the subject now? I have heard and seen everything you said just now and your performance. When I defeat you later, I will also capture these three little guys and torture them severely. I don't believe they won't tell me all the secrets. Witch Agatha is a little over the top now. She feels inflated by her huge power, and is even more angry because of the perfunctory treatment of Judge Alasam and Shyansha. Do you really think that you can compete with me just by absorbing the power of a nascent god? Judge Alasam said, raising his hand and punching towards Witch Agatha. But the Witch Agatha on the opposite side had already prepared for it. Facing the attack of Judge Alasam, she simply dodged and avoided Alasam's punch. Then she threw a backhand punch, hitting Alasam's face directly. After that, she continued to attack with a series of punches, forcing Alasam to retreat continuously. Enough, Alasam was angry. He stood up suddenly and threw a punch fiercely. The power of this punch was much greater than before, and the speed was much faster than before. The Witch Agatha couldn't react in time, and was directly knocked back several steps by this punch. They are already cosmic level strength, but they are just fighting hand to hand here. Xiaoyan couldn't help but complain directly when watching the scene happening in front of him. These are two beings with cosmic level strength, and they are powerful fighters who can easily smash a planet with one punch by themselves. But at this moment, the two sides are fighting hand to hand here, and the fight is more tedious than that of street thugs. Father said that this is the general situation of the entire dimension, and it is also an important factor why the super god civilization can easily become the strongest civilization in such a dimension. Zhao King explained. To be honest, among the powerful people of the super god civilization, there are only a dozen or so who can reach the cosmic level in terms of strength alone. However, such a civilization can make the celestial god group, the five great gods, and many dimensional demons feel awe and dare not provoke them. With the same power, our super god civilization can transform it into a more effective means of attack. Even if the power is not at the same level, we can still fight with it by relying on flexible movements and various special combat techniques. Under such circumstances, it is difficult for the super god civilization not to be powerful. Shyansha is more confident in the super god civilization than Zhao King. Their super god civilization has cultivated hundreds of super warriors in these years. Although most of them are only the first generation of super warriors are much stronger than ordinary superheroes. relying on the blessing of flame-level weapons and even god-killing weapons, and the background support provided by the computing systems of the major celestial computers of the entire super god civilization, these super warriors can exert even stronger strength. Moreover, in addition to super soldiers, the team of superheroes is also constantly strengthening. Various people with superpowers or magic, divine power and other abilities in the universe have joined, which also enriches the overall strength of the super god civilization. In addition, there are a group of core combat forces such as the 10 strongest people in the original super god civilization, and the Shin Mecha troops led by the Devouring King. The super god civilization was originally very powerful and is still growing. But these so-called heavenly gods have always maintained such a backward fighting method, and still maintain their original way of survival. Born to master absolute power, for a population, it may not be a lucky thing, Xianxia sighed. He has realized the reason why the heavenly gods will gradually be left behind, and also understood why Li Qingyun wanted the three of them to go out for training. To see more, to think more, only to understand more truths. Can we be more clear about how to manage such a huge and powerful force as the super god civilization when we take charge of the super god civilization in the future? Big brother, Zhao King's voice suddenly became a little urgent. At this time, Xianxia also withdrew his thoughts and looked up at the battle ahead. Witch Agatha was waving her hands and sending out several energy waves to attack. However, after these energy waves were sent out, they were easily dodged by Judge Allison. Sure enough, even if you have such powerful power, you don't know how to use them, Judge Allison was mocking. He looked at these attacks of Witch Agatha and thought that it was because Witch Agatha didn't know how to use these energies that she couldn't hit them. However, when Xianxia and Zhao King saw the scene at this time, they immediately understood what the real purpose of Witch Agatha was. Chapter 557 Arrogance is the root of failure. Do you think I really can't hit you? Agatha laughed. She also felt that the Judge Allison in front of her was quite stupid. What do you mean? Judge Allison was a little confused at the moment. He didn't quite understand what Agatha said. Brother, do you want to take action? Zhao King saw everything clearly at this time, but whether to intervene in this battle or not depends on Xianxia. Wait until Agatha starts, then we can take action. Xianxia wanted to intervene, but he didn't want to intervene too early in this matter, because he also wanted to see how Allison would respond if Agatha wanted to forcibly absorb the power of Judge Allison. However, the result he saw in the end disappointed him. As Agatha arranged all the energy in the right place, a pentagram formation suddenly appeared behind Judge Allison. The formation of the magic circle directly restricted Allison's movements. The huge body of Judge Allison seemed like Jesus nailed to the cross, unable to move at all. Witch Agatha, what do you want to do? Judge Allison realized at this time that he had fallen into the trap of Witch Agatha. His power was actually restricted, so he might be absorbed by Witch Agatha in the next moment. Of course, absorb all the energy in your body. After Agatha finished speaking, she directly activated the magic circle. She wanted to absorb all the power of Judge Allison into herself. No, you can't do this, Judge Allison said. He had realized how dangerous his situation was. You, help me. Judge Allison turned his eyes to Xianxia and the others. If it was facing other people, Allison would definitely not ask for help from humans even if he died, because he was one of the leaders of the Celestial God group, and it was impossible for him to ask for help from such a humble life. But the three in front of them are Li Qingyun's children, the Li Qingyun who is respected by the Life Tribunal and recognized by the five gods. Do you really want to intervene? Witch Agatha turned her head and looked at Xianxia, Zhao King and Xian. He has begged us like this, and we know each other anyway. It seems a bit inappropriate to intervene. Xianxia had thought about intervening a long time ago, not because of the request of Judge Allison, but out of self-protection. Witch Agatha's power is already very strong now, but the three siblings can still compete with him with their special fighting methods. But if Agatha completes the absorption of Judge Allison's energy, the power she possesses will be even stronger. Previously, Witch Agatha had expressed the idea of absorbing the power of the three of them. Therefore, Xianxia would never allow Agatha to gain stronger power and then threaten herself in turn. Xianxia would never wait for others to become stronger and then deal with her. So, you are determined to go against me. Witch Agatha's face became very ugly, and she even wanted to speed up the speed of absorbing the energy of Judge Allison. However, this process of converting energy through the magic circle takes time, and Judge Allison himself is very powerful, and his energy coefficient is also very huge. In this case, it will take a long time for Witch Agatha to complete the process of absorbing the power of Judge Alyssum. Do it. Xianxia did not give Witch Agatha the opportunity to absorb energy. The energy in his body burst out completely at this moment. He raised the Xianxia sword in his hand, and a powerful energy condensed on the sword, transforming into a large sword hundreds of meters long, slashing towards Witch Agatha's body. Zhao King and Xiaoyan also took action at the same time. They had no weapons in their hands, but around Witch Agatha's body, there were a large number of weapons. These weapons were the silver wings controlled by Xiaoyan and the star destiny used by Zhao King. Xiaoyan's silver wings are famous for their large number and flexible attacks, and Zhao King's star destiny is the strongest weapon for ultra-long-range attacks. In the Super God universe, the Heavenly King Hexi, who was still a divine body, was able to control Xingming to attack at will in any area within 50 light years. Although Zhao King is not as proficient as the Heavenly King Hexi now, he does not have the computing support of the astronomical computer behind him. But Zhao King can also make Xingming's attack distance reach more than 1 light year, and he can attack any target he wants with unparalleled precision. The body of the Witch Agatha has become very huge at this time. The huge body means that she has great power, but it also makes the target of the Witch Agatha very large. The attacks of Xianxia, Zhao King and Xiaoyan all fell on the body of the Witch Agatha without exception. The body of the Witch Agatha is very strong, so strong that even the attack of the Judge Alyssum did not cause her much damage. But at this moment, facing the attack of Xianxia and the other two, Witch Agatha felt very severe pain. The wounds caused by the weapons were not many, but they could really hit the flesh and make Witch Agatha feel the pain. Under this severe pain, Witch Agatha quickly gave up the magic energy conversion of Judge Alyssum, and Judge Alyssum regained his freedom. Witch Agatha quickly retreated in this attack and quickly shrunk her body to return to her original size. She knew very well that keeping a huge body looked very powerful, but when facing Xianxia, Zhao King and Xiaoyan, her huge body was just a target and was completely useless. In this case, instead of forcibly maintaining the original huge body, it would be better to return to the original size, which would actually give better combat results. Thank you. Judge Alyssum had escaped from the predicament, and looked at the 3 young men who saved him in front of him, and said words of gratitude respectfully. No need, Xianxia said. You are actually stronger than me. Although the Witch Agatha is also very strong, she is at most on par with you, but the reason you lost today is entirely due to your arrogance. This arrogance is the root cause of failure. Chapter 558 Agatha's True Pursuit. Yes, because our Celestials have been the dominant existence in the universe for a long time, almost every member of the Celestials has developed this arrogant character. In contrast, although your super god civilization has just been established and has only recently become an extremely powerful civilization in the universe, you are relatively cautious about the enemy. Your thinking of despising the enemy tactically and paying attention to the enemy strategically is very worthy of learning from our Celestials. Judge Arytham was really humble at this moment, because he really understood the root cause of his failure this time. Moreover, this is not just a case of Arytham, but a problem that almost all Celestials in the entire multiverse have. The almost invincible power and extremely high status for a long time have made them develop a mentality of looking down on ordinary people, so that the members of their Celestials will occasionally overturn in the universe. The super god civilization is different. Their people also have the same or even more powerful power as the Celestials, but everyone who comes out of the super god civilization will do things very carefully and thoughtfully. Sometimes they seem to despise their enemies, but in fact, every time they face new enemies, they always know the other party thoroughly beforehand, and then make tactical arrangements specifically for them. This approach of knowing oneself and the enemy has made the super god civilization always victorious so far. Xianxia, Zhao King and Xiaoyan, the 3 young descendants of the super god civilization, are successors who have not yet grown up, but they have developed the same character as other strong men of the super god civilization. This is the luck of the super god civilization, which means that they have successors, but it also shows the shortcomings of their celestial god group. They are born with better conditions than those of the super god civilization, but they are always surpassed by others. This is the case with the transcendent gods, the various dimensional demons, and the current super god civilization. There is also the Witch Agatha in front of us, the former Infinite Ultron, etc. In each multiverse, there are always some special beings that can beat their celestial god group from time to time. Okay, We are just juniors, and we shouldn't actually evaluate you like this, Xianxia said. Now, we still need to go down and deal with the matter of Witch Agatha. As for you, you should leave now. No matter what happens here, it has nothing to do with you, because you have actually failed. Xianxia's words meant that Judge Alyssum should not interfere in everything that happened later. The things that Witch Agatha did before actually proved that she could defeat Judge Alyssum, and now after Judge Alyssum's failure, it was Xianxia and his 3 siblings who took over the affairs of the earth. I understand. I will leave now. If there is nothing else, I will not interfere in the situation on the earth. Judge Alyssum also understood that his failure had already indicated that he was no longer qualified to take care of things here. Whether Xianxia and his team were going to kill Witch Agatha or let her go, it had nothing to do with their group of guts, at least it had nothing to do with Judge Alyssum. Well, go back and heal your wounds first, Xianxia nodded. Seeing this, Judge Alyssum turned around and flew towards the depths of the universe. At the same time, he directly conveyed the news here to other members of the Celestial God Group and told them the situation here. Even the Life Tribunal had received the news from the Judge Alyssum and reported the latest situation of the Super God civilization to him. After all, the existence of the Super God civilization plays an extremely important role. Even the Life Tribunal, who replaced the OAA to hold the power of the multiverse, is very concerned about it. After sending Alyssum away, Xianxia brought Zhaoqing and Xiaowen down and landed directly on the original stage. Here, the Witch Agatha was looking at Xianxia and his 3 siblings with some anger. You 3 really shocked me. Even the special universe gods like the Celestial God Group respect you so much and even condescend to ask you for help, the Witch Agatha said, and there was actually a deep sense of sarcasm in her tone. He respects us because of our father, and he asks us for help because he has no other way, Xianxia said. Your father? Who is your father? Witch Agatha was very curious about what kind of person could make the Celestials pay so much attention to him, so that even these 3 underage guys were respected by the Celestials just because they were the children of that man. There is no need to tell you who our father is. You just need to know that you have achieved what you wanted today, and you have fallen into a very serious mistake. This mistake may lead to the complete destruction of the entire earth, Xianxia said. Don't tell me these useless things. I just want to get enough powerful power, and then everything will be fine, Witch Agatha said, and her tone seemed a little crazy. But, is this really what you want? Zhaoqing asked at this time. What do you mean? Witch Agatha looked at Zhaoqing. Do you really just want to get infinite power, and then you don't care about everything else? Zhaoqing asked again, and this time, Witch Agatha fell silent. Yes, Agatha, do you really want nothing for power? At this time, Jin Jet, who was standing not far away, finally spoke. He had been wondering from the beginning why things had turned out like this. But now he finally figured it out, because all of this was actually misunderstood by the Witch Agatha. What you want is actually to let the world see your greatness, to let everyone see your supreme demeanor, right? Jin Jet said again. He could feel something very similar to himself from the Witch Agatha. Jin Jet could give his power directly to the Witch Agatha for acting, so the Witch Agatha might also be willing to give up the idea of pursuing infinite power for the dream of becoming a great actor. The Witch Agatha hesitated. Because in her heart, it seemed that she really wanted this, just as Jin Jet said. Chapter 559. This is really an actor. Facing Jin Ji's question, the Witch Agatha hesitated. She really started to hesitate now. Did she gain such powerful power just to make everyone worship and admire her? But it seems that this kind of thing can't be done just by gaining powerful power. Just like just now, she has become as big as the earth, but when people see her, they are at most a little scared. How can they admire and worship her? But being an actor is different, especially the kind of great actor that can gain the admiration and worship of many people. In addition, the powerful power she has gained, which can make the whole world afraid, then she can really gain the admiration and worship of everyone at once. Just like she persuaded Jin Jet yesterday, today she was finally persuaded by Jin Jet with the same reason. Okay, I accept your proposal, the Witch Agatha answered. She really agreed with Jin Ji's statement. She was willing to become the greatest actor in history with Jin Jet, and they would write a great chapter together on this planet. Great, Jin Jet was very excited. However, Xianxia, Zhaoqing and Xiaowen, who were standing not far away and watching this scene, were completely dumbfounded. Can it be like this? He is really an actor. He likes to show off too much, right? The three brothers and sisters were all shocked by this situation. They did not expect that the two representative figures of this universe would actually give up everything else just for the dream of being an actor. With the most powerful power in the world, they would become an actor who makes movies for everyone. The infinite multiverse really has infinite possibilities. Xianxia could only sigh in the end. In this infinite multiverse, Xianxia and his friends have experienced too many battles and fights. Like this universe, the fight turned into a big drama. This is really the first time they have encountered it. It feels even more bizarre than when they suddenly arrived in the zombie universe. Anyway, at least a matter of this universe has been resolved, and we can be considered to have seen the world. Zhao King also sighed. It is indeed a broadening of my horizons, Xiaowen Sire revealed a strange taste. A battle that could destroy the entire Earth, a cosmic-level powerhouse that could even threaten the safety of the universe, finally gave up his ambition and desire for the sake of a dream of being an actor. How could this not give them a lesson? Let's go. There's no need for us to stay here any longer. After Xianxia finished speaking, he directly spread his angel wings and flew away. He didn't want to stay here any longer. No matter what happened here, it had nothing to do with him. Moreover, with the current situation of the witch Agatha and the situation of Jin Jack, the Eternal Clan, they didn't expect anything particularly serious to happen. Zhao King and Xiaowen followed Xianxia immediately after he left. The three of them returned all the way to the island where Satan was, and saw the crocodile god Satan, who was still on guard. Why are you back? Is the battle over? Satan was a little surprised. He originally thought that there would be another fight this time, but in the end, the person who had said that he would be summoned to help at a critical moment came back safely. Well, it's over, although the ending is a bit weird. It's over after all, Zhao King answered, with an embarrassed expression on his face. Seeing this, Thornton was also confused. But he didn't understand what was going on. Okay, let's go. It's time to go to the next universe, Xianxia said. He didn't even want to stay in this universe. He wanted to take his brother and sister and Thornton and leave this universe. Oh, Thornton agreed. He didn't understand it at all, but he didn't know what to say, so he just did what Xianxia said. Soon, Xianxia opened a portal to the next multiverse. The four people entered the portal together and left this universe directly. At this moment, after Xianxia and the others left, the figures of the two universe observers, Sox and Sakro, suddenly appeared in the universe above their location. They looked at the place where the three people disappeared below, and nodded with satisfaction. As we guessed, they are turning the situation of multiple multiverses into a more peaceful state, Sakalo said. Yes, the original situation of this universe should be that the witch Agatha absorbed the power of the Judge Alyssum. Although she gained more powerful power, she also attracted the attention of all the members of the Celestials. A war is almost inevitable, Sox echoed. And now, because of the existence of the three of them, the Judge Alyssum was not killed by the witch Agatha. Because of the special identities of the three of Xianxia, the Celestials will no longer pursue the murder of the Celestials on this planet. This time, under the premise that the Earth protected the original home, the subsequent war did not break out. It is a perfect ending. The two universe observers are very satisfied with the current results. After expressing such feelings, they also directly withdrew from this universe. They will follow the direction of Xianxia and others to go to the next multiverse and continue to observe Xianxia and others' actions. They are very much looking forward to how much change these three teenagers will bring to them and how many universes will develop peacefully. However, just as they left, Li Qingyun appeared again. The Lord of the Divine River of the Super God Civilization had already said that he would not care about Xianxia and the others' training trip, but after all, as a father, he could not really let these three little guys go. So you two guys have been watching them all the time, then I'll just let you watch them from now on. The Cosmic Observer was observing the situation of Xianxia and the others, and Li Qingyun already knew it. But Li Qingyun knew that the Cosmic Observer was observing his children, but the Cosmic Observer didn't know that Li Qingyun was also observing the Cosmic Observer. Now, with the existence of the Cosmic Observer, Li Qingyun, as a father, can ignore the situation of the three children. With the ability and situation of these two Cosmic Observers, if there is any danger, Xianxia and the others don't need to ask for help. These two people will definitely contact him first. Because, they all know how cruel Li Qingyun's revenge will be if Xianxia and the others get into trouble. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 560 Xianxia and Zhaoqing's Vigilance. Once again, they traveled through the multiverse, but this time, Xianxia and his team were no longer traveling to Earth. Is this Xander? Xianxia carefully observed the surroundings, and then scanned the entire planet with the eye of insight, and Xianxia came to a conclusion. Every time we traveled through the multiverse before, we would arrive on Earth, but this time we actually appeared on Xander. This situation is obviously a bit wrong. Zhaoqing also behaved a little strangely at this time, because he understood that every time they traveled through, there would always be a force quietly pulling them to the key place. When they investigated the Dark Doctor Strange before, they followed the clues they investigated and then tracked the next multiverse. But this time, they chose a random way. Which multiverse they went to and where they arrived were definitely random. But judging from the previous two travels and this time, there was obviously something wrong. The first two times we crossed a multiverse, we went directly to Earth. So since we are still crossing on Earth, we must be heading to another Earth in the multiverse, but now we have directly crossed over Earth and arrived at Xander. There must be some special reason for this. Zhaoqing said what he was thinking. He had to let Xianxia know the specific situation. Well, I noticed it too, Xianxia said. He was not as meticulous as Zhaoqing in observing all kinds of things, and he loved to think. But Xianxia had extremely keen observation and judgment. Someone is deliberately guiding us, Xianxia said. But the question is, who is guiding us? What is his purpose? Zhaoqing is thinking about these two questions now. There must be a reason for changing the spatial coordinates of our crossing of the multiverse for no reason, and guiding us to a specific multiverse, but from the current situation, the multiverses that the other party guides us to cross are not actually dangerous, at least not for us, Xianxia said, and at this moment Zhaoqing also recalled the previous two multiverses. The first multiverse is the Gamma Monster universe, where the entire universe has undergone a huge change due to the mutation of the Hulk. The second universe is the Actor universe formed after the witch Agatha absorbed the power of the Eternals and the Celestials Tiam. Although there are crises in the previous two universes, I have thought carefully that even without her appearance, these crises will be resolved, but the state will be slightly worse, Zhaoqing said. In the universe where the Gamma Monster is located, Banner has actually thought about the final way to deal with the Gamma Monster. The small nuclear bomb in his residence is to detonate it at a critical moment, and then let his body mutate again. As long as Hulk becomes a top monster, he can still defeat the original top monster and rule the entire Gamma Monster Corps. We all know the situation of Hulk. As long as there is someone who has a very good relationship with him to communicate with him, or his emotions are vented to a certain extent, he can regain a certain degree of rationality. So, the final result should be that the transformation can be completed naturally, and the crisis of the Gamma Monster Corps can also be resolved, Zhaoqing analyzed in detail. And the witch Agatha, if we don't intervene, she wants to be an actress. After absorbing the power of the Judge Alyssum, she should stay on Earth as an actress like now. Zhaoqing explained the situation of the two universes and pointed out the results of his guesses. But you missed a key factor, Xianxia said. What factor? Zhaoqing looked at Xianxia in confusion. Future. Zhaoqing was even more confused. What does this word mean? But soon, he reacted and understood what Xianxia wanted to remind him. You are right. Our appearance does not change the current situation, but the future development. Zhaoqing admired his elder brother even more at this moment. Although he seemed to be the smartest one, he could analyze everything very clearly and come up with solutions to the problems quickly. But there is no doubt that Xianxia's overall view and judgment of the situation are always the best among the three siblings. After Banner transforms into a Gamma Beast, he can indeed solve the crisis of the Gamma Beast Legion running rampant, but Hulk can no longer turn into Banner, and Hulk himself is extremely irritable. He can hide under the Arctic ice with a Gamma Beast Legion without bringing danger to the world, but Hulk can't always stay alone and never come out. As long as he leaves the Arctic ice, countries around the world will definitely be wary of him, and as long as there is a little conflict between the two sides, it will turn into disaster. Even if the person who can stabilize Hulk's emotions reappears and allows Hulk to recover, over time, and in the absence of new crises in the outside world, internal conflicts will continue to deteriorate. Humans, when there is no greater threat, will definitely find ways to eliminate the threats around them, Xianxia's explanation made Zhao King understand more clearly the significance of what he did in the Gamma Beast universe. Hulk can turn back to Banner at any time, so Banner is still between humans and monsters. Even if humans are wary of him, it will not cause full-scale hostility. But if Hulk can't turn back to Banner, he is a pure monster. Over time, the whole world will regard him as a pure monster. If there are always foreign invasions and external threats, humans will not do anything to Hulk. After all, Hulk's Gamma Monster Core can be a protective umbrella to protect them at critical moments. But without external threats, the Gamma Monster Core, a large group of monsters that are not controlled by humans, has become the biggest threat. Zhao King's actions at that time resolved these huge crises that will appear in the future. Then, the situation of Witch Agatha should be that her appearance resolved the grievances between Witch Agatha and the Celestials, and prevented the Celestials from attacking the Earth again. Zhao King now has Xianxia's analysis of the Gamma Monster universe, and it is easy to figure out the situation of the actor universe. Yes, Xianxia nodded and said. Chapter 561, Eggs Laid by Humans and Ducks? After discussing the situations encountered in the first two universes, Xianxia and his team began to focus back on the current universe. The past can only be used to summarize experience. What they really have to face is the current situation. As for the person who is hiding in the background and guiding them, they can only put it aside temporarily, and then wait for the opportunity in the future to investigate it clearly. Let's go. I just found out that there is a very special existence on this planet. Xianxia turned and flew towards the city where the headquarters of the Nova Corps on Xander is located. He has locked a key target at this time. Zhao King, Xiaoyan and Sodden followed closely behind. They passed over the city and landed directly in the yard of a villa. There is a very special energy signal coming out here, Zhao King reminded, and his inside eyes had already observed very critical data at this time. That should be what I sensed before. After Xianxia finished speaking, he pushed open the door of the villa. The moment the door opened, they saw the person they were looking for. There was a person, a duck wearing clothes, and an egg lying in a baby carriage in this room. When the four people saw this scene, they were all stunned for a moment. Who are you? The woman immediately became alert when she saw the four people coming, especially when she saw the crocodile god Thornton. She obviously showed a trace of fear. Let me tell you, Thor is the husband of my best friend. If you want to harm us, he will definitely avenge us. The woman said this, obviously warning Xianxia and the others. Daisy, we are not here to harm you, we just detected some special signals, so we came here to take a look. Zhao King walked forward. The four of them naturally recognized the woman in front of them, because she was the best friend of Xianxia's second uncle's wife. That's right, it was Thor's wife, Jane Foster's best friend, Daisy. The relationship is a bit confusing, but Xianxia and the four of them know each other. You know me, Daisy was a little surprised. It's true that she has some relationship with Thor, but there is still some gap between her and superheroes. Even her husband, Howard the Duck, is just a famous businessman in the universe, and is far from being a god like Thor. Yes, we know you, but the one next to you. Zhao King looked at the duck with white feathers and a suit. This is my husband, Howard. Daisy hurriedly introduced him to Xianxia and the others. What? Xiaoyan exclaimed as soon as she heard Daisy's introduction. No, it's just a duck. Xiaoyan couldn't figure out how a human could marry a duck. I'm not the kind of duck you think I am. I am a high-level intelligent creature from the duck world, the most unique existence in this universe. Howard the Duck finally spoke at this time, and his words also surprised Xianxia and the others. The three of them can be regarded as having seen the world in the multiverse. After all, they came out of the universe where the super god civilization is located, and have experienced two multiverse journeys. They have been to several multiverses and seen different infinite multiverse states. But now, it was the first time they met such a talking duck that married a human. Don't tell me that the egg in the crib was laid by you. Xiaoyan raised her hand and pointed at the carefully cared for egg in the crib. This is our child. Daisy was the first to answer. Xiaoyan didn't know what to say for a moment. A human and a duck, after they got married, they laid an egg. Well, is there no reproductive isolation? Can cross-species do this? The abnormal energy we detected was emitted from this egg, Zhao King said. He had already guessed the situation between Daisy and Howard Duck. After all, the Eye of Insight had read the relevant information, and such information had never appeared in the past. What do you mean by saying this? Are you trying to take our child away? Howard Duck suddenly became nervous. and he subconsciously turned around and walked towards the place where weapons were stored in the house. He had to pick up the weapon and protect his wife and children at the critical moment. "Wait, I think I know you," Thornton suddenly came out. He had not spoken since before. In fact, he was following Xianxia and the other three, and he often couldn't get a word in. But just now, after he saw Howard the Duck, he felt that the other party seemed familiar. Now after thinking carefully, he finally remembered what was going on. "Howard the Duck, in our original universe, there is also a duck like him," Thornton said, and Zhao King immediately began to search his database after hearing what Thornton said at this moment. Soon, he found relevant information from a very inconspicuous place in his database. Howard T. Duck, a duck-like intelligent creature born from a special dimension and accidentally appeared in the real universe, was captured and collected by the Collector. Later, he was rescued from the void by the Guardians of the Galaxy and went to settle on Xander. After the influence of the super god civilization in the universe gradually expanded, Howard the Duck entered the super god civilization and traveled between various planets as a businessman, promoting trade between various life planets in the super god civilization. He was also one of the envoys of Xander in the super god civilization. Because he is in animal form but has human wisdom, he knows Rocket Raccoon, Crocodile God Thornton, etc. After reading this information, Zhao King knew some information about Howard the Duck, and the one in front of him should be Howard the Duck in this universe in the multiverse. And looking at the current situation, this Howard the Duck is obviously more famous in this universe than Howard the Duck in the super god civilization universe. The most important thing is that their presence at this moment attracted Xianxia and the other four, which may mean that the next event to happen in this multiverse is centered on Howard the Duck. The person who secretly guided Xianxia and the others to cross the multiverse has always wanted them to come forward to deal with some very special things in the multiverse. Chapter 562 The Secret in the Egg. "Are you from the multiverse?" Howard Duck turned around and asked, but he still had a weapon in his hand. No matter who the other party was or where they came from, Howard Duck couldn't trust these guys now. Because they had been staring at his children since they first came. "Yes, we came from other multiverses." This time, Zhao King didn't hide it, because they had already exposed their identities. And Howard Duck was also a relatively special existence in the universe. He already knew the existence of the multiverse, so there was no need for them to hide it in front of him. "You can put down your weapons. That thing is useless to us, and it is very likely to hurt you," Xianxia reminded. "Who are the four of them?" "They are all super soldiers. 2 sacred bodies, 1 4th-generation divine body, and 1 ultimate beast body. 4 people who can't be killed by nuclear bombs." "Howard Duck, holding an ordinary energy gun, how can you threaten their safety? How do you know it's useless?" Howard Duck didn't care about Xianxia's reminder at all, because he was quite confident in his weapon. "This weapon is a traditional energy gun from Xander, but you made a new version of it after you got it, making its power at least twice as powerful as before, and the charging and shooting speed have also been greatly improved." Zhao King told Howard Duck the properties and detailed conditions of the weapon in his hand in one breath. "Are you also a weapons expert?" Howard Duck looked at Zhao King with some surprise. "I'm not a weapons expert, but we can know your weapons and your family's information at a glance," Zhao King said. "Believe me, if we want, your egg will be gone before you even see us." While Xianxia was speaking, he casually grabbed the egg that was originally lying quietly in the crib with his right hand, and it appeared directly in his hand. The appearance of this scene made Howard Duck immediately raise the energy gun in his hand, and Daisy was also anxious to rush up. But the next moment, Xianxia waved his hand and threw out a golden spear, which landed in front of Daisy and Howard Duck. The appearance of this spear made Daisy and Howard Duck stop immediately, and they were all observing the spear carefully. "Eternal spear? Are you from Asgard?" Daisy had been to Asgard, and the king of Asgard used the eternal spear. "You two have a deep connection with Asgard, and so do I, but in this world, my identity can only be revealed to you two, and cannot be told to others." Xianxia looked at Daisy and Howard Duck, and then said with a serious expression, "Okay, we understand." Howard Duck and Daisy looked at each other, and finally nodded at the same time. They already understood that if they really took action, they would definitely not be the opponents of the 4 guys in front of them. They took their eggs directly out of thin air, and threw out an eternal spear with a casual throw. These 4 people not only have strange abilities, but also very mysterious identities. Under such circumstances, the couple could not afford to provoke these 4 guys. "Zhao King, what do you think?" Xianxia looked at Zhaoking and handed the egg in his hand to Zhaoking. Zhaoking took the egg, opened the eye of insight, and scanned it carefully. Although it looks like an ordinary egg, this egg itself contains extremely powerful power. The cross-species resonance between two different species has caused the genes of the two to merge and mutate, making this egg contain very powerful power from the moment it was conceived. Zhaoking analyzed. It should be more than just cross-species, right? Xianxia expressed his doubts about this. Indeed, if it is just a mutation between species, then at most a child with similar characteristics between the two species will be born, such as a human with duck wings, or a duck with a human head. Xiaoyan was fine when he heard the first part, but when he heard about a duck with a human head, he immediately shuddered all over. This kind of thing, just thinking about it makes people feel sick. No, our child won't look so ugly. Daisy shook her head decisively. She didn't believe that the child she gave birth to would end up like this. Well, don't worry, this child is in the former state, just with wings, and the overall appearance is still similar to that of a human. Zhaoking also knew that her words had frightened the child's parents, so she quickly explained to them. After hearing what Zhaoking said, Daisy was relieved. At least her child was not a duck with a human head. After all, although she accepted Howard Duck could become a couple with Howard Duck and give birth to a child, there was still a big difference between a pure duck and a monster duck with a human head. Let's talk business, Xianxia reminded. Yes, Zhaoking nodded, and then refocused her attention and observed the situation of the egg. There is a powerful force contained in the egg. This force should come from the special energy of the universe itself, similar to divine power. Zhaoking quickly came to a conclusion after some analysis. Divine power. Daisy and Howard Duck were both puzzled. They are not gods, so how could the child they gave birth to have divine power? There is a result. This child was born when the planets were aligned, and there is a legend in the universe that children born at this time will have unparalleled power. So, the child in this egg should have obtained this legendary power. Zhaoking has already investigated all the causes and consequences. A cross-species human born from a human and a duck with high intelligence, and then possessing the legendary power, this is the most special thing about this egg. If it is just a child with super potential, it is a good thing for the universe. Why would someone want to guide us here? Zhaoking did not avoid Daisy and Howard Duck, and directly asked a question in his heart. Maybe it is because this egg may be very dangerous before it is hatched, Xianxia replied. Maybe, if a child like this who has superpower before birth knows the intelligence information, it is not surprising that people from major forces in the universe would want to snatch it. Zhaoking agreed with Xianxia's idea. Chapter 563 Let it be. An egg of a mutant creature that contains infinite energy will naturally attract the attention of the entire universe. Howard Duck could hear the conversation between Xianxia and Zhaoking clearly, and he also knew what kind of trouble he might face at the moment. However, compared to other unknown coveters, he is more afraid of the four in front of him. Because these four not only know the detailed information, they are even holding his eggs. Don't worry, we won't harm your child. Xianxia turned his head to look at Howard Duck and said this directly. You can actually know what I'm thinking directly. Howard Duck looked at Xianxia in shock. He didn't say anything just now. Those were his thoughts in his mind, but he was just being vigilant. But Xianxia spoke out his thoughts as soon as he opened his mouth. Take the egg first and take good care of it. Zhaoking sent the egg back to Daisy. When Daisy saw Zhaoking's action, she immediately stepped forward and took the egg back. Howard Duck saw that Xianxia and the others actually returned the egg, and he knew that his guess was definitely unnecessary. These four people had never thought of taking the egg from him, which means that these four people might be their helpers, helping them to protect their eggs from other coveters. Can you please help us protect our child? Howard Duck put down his weapon, and he walked to Xianxia with great sincerity, asking him respectfully. Brother, what do you mean? Zhaoking looked at Xianxia. At this time, on such issues, Xianxia always made the final decision. We came out to travel, and since we are here and encounter such a thing, it's okay to take care of it. Besides, at this time, the person behind the scenes led us here, probably just for this child. In that case, why don't we just intervene directly, and see what Zirin behind the scenes wants to do? Xianxia's idea is very simple and direct. They are just out to play, and they will do anything interesting. Compared to the previous universe, in order to explore the true purpose of the witch Agatha, they could only follow the crew to act. Now it is just to protect an egg, which is much easier. Okay, since you have decided, Let's focus on this egg and see how it will develop in the future. Zhao King agreed with Xianxu's idea. We will stay here until your eggs are hatched. Xianxu looked at Howard Duck and said directly. Great, thank you so much. Howard Duck was immediately excited when he saw that Xianxu agreed to his request. With the help of 4 such mysterious and powerful people, even if there are really people in the universe who covet their eggs and want to take the eggs, they can deal with it well. Ding-ling-ling. Suddenly, the phone rang. Howard Duck had just received the help of these 4 people, and the phone rang at this time, which also surprised him. But when he picked up the phone, he found that the caller was actually an old acquaintance. Go Xianzhen. Howard Duck picked up the phone. Mr. Howard, I am holding a grand banquet here. I would like to invite you and your family to come and attend. You will not refuse, right? Go Xianzhen's voice came from the other side of the phone. In this universe, Howard Duck is still the cosmic businessman who is good at business. He also knows Go Xianzhen. Although they are not friends, they have a lot of business dealings. If it were on weekdays, facing Go Xianzhen's invitation, Howard Duck would probably agree without thinking. After all, this is an opportunity to maintain the relationship between the 2 parties and make it easier for him to do business in the universe. But at this moment, he already knew how special the egg he and Daisy laid was. Xianxu and Zhao King just said that this egg might attract the covetousness of various forces in the universe. Therefore, under such circumstances, he was suddenly invited by Go Xianzhen, which made Howard Duck have some doubts. After all, Go Xianzhen himself is not a good person. The fighting arena he runs is a place that relies on blood-sucking to maintain its operation. Almost every day, slaves from the universe die there. If the enemy comes, we will fight them. If the water comes, we will block it with earth. Since the other party invites you, then you should go, Xianxu said, and he added at the end. If the other party really makes any move, we'd better know it. If we do nothing, we don't know how to start. Xianxu's words were transmitted to Howard Duck through secret communication, so Howard Duck could hear it, but Go Xianzhen on the other side of the phone didn't know. Howard Duck is a smart duck. He naturally understood what Xianxu meant and gave a decisive answer. I know, I will take my wife and children with me. By the way, I have a few friends who have come from afar. I can't leave them alone. Can I take them with me when the time comes? Howard Duck knew that he had to respond to Go Xianzhen's invitation to get a better understanding of the situation. But for the sake of safety, he would not take the risk alone. Therefore, he wanted to take Xianxu and the others with him. Only with them, he would feel safer. Okay, welcome. Go Xianzhen did not hesitate at all. In his opinion, they were just some insignificant people. As long as Howard Duck could bring his egg with him, nothing else mattered. Okay, let's go now, Howard Duck said, and then hung up the phone. He looked up at Daisy and the egg in Daisy's arms, and then looked at Xianxu and the others. I'm afraid I can only ask you to take care of this matter this time. Howard Duck bowed to Xianxu and the others with great sincerity. Daisy, who was standing next to him, saw Howard Duck doing this, and bowed to Xianxu and the others. She didn't understand the specific situation and couldn't know more, but she understood that her husband did this, so she couldn't remain indifferent. Don't do this, we don't want to be set up directly. Xianxu's meaning of being set up was naturally being kidnapped by morality and emotions. If he didn't accept all this, then they could do whatever they wanted. But if they gladly accepted the bows of gratitude from these 2 people, then everything they wanted to do in the future would be affected by it. Chapter 564, Mother's Protection. Driving Howard Duck's spaceship, they soon arrived at Sakar, where Go Xianzhen was. Kunsa Star was in a state of celebration at the moment, and almost everyone was celebrating something. However, Howard Duck, who had come here many times, had long been accustomed to these situations. After all, this planet itself is a fallen planet. There are only 2 kinds of people living here. One is the ruler like Go Xianzhen, who is high above and enjoys parties and entertainment every day, and the other is the cosmic refugees enslaved by them. Because of the special geographical location of Sakar, there are many cosmic wormholes connecting various parts of the universe, and these wormholes will transmit a lot of garbage from time to time, and sometimes there are life forms in these garbage. So, these life forms were captured by Go Xianzhen's people, and a special device was used to plant a control switch on their necks, so that these captured people could no longer resist. Howard Duck is just a cosmic businessman, and as a businessman, the principle is that no matter what kind of planet or what kind of person, As long as it can bring benefits, he doesn't care. That's why Howard knew Gao Xianzhen, but it was also because he knew Gao Xianzhen that he hesitated to come after knowing that his egg was so special. Haha, this Gao Xianzhen, as we guessed, wants to take action on your egg. Zhaoqing sent a message to Howard and told him what he knew. The moment he entered Sakar, he had actually scanned the entire planet with the eye of insight. What kind of activities were being held here, and what Gao Xianzhen ordered his men to do, all were read by him. What, they are really going to take action on our child? Howard was shocked. This was his child, and he absolutely couldn't let his child be in danger. Don't worry, we are here to ensure that your child will not have any accidents, Zhaoqing replied. The four of them are all super soldiers. At the beginning, Li Qingyun went to Sakar alone and easily suppressed the entire Sakar, and made Sakar one of the earliest life planets under the rule of the super god civilization. Although Xianxia, Zhaoqing and Xiaoyan are younger than Li Qingyun at that time, they are much stronger now. After all, Li Qingyun developed slowly with the help of the big clock. The Li Qingyun who ruled Sakar at that time was only a second generation or third generation super soldier. But the three of them are different. They are now fourth generation divine bodies and sacred bodies, and they also have the most advanced weapons and super gene engines equipped by the Super God Academy. If you really compare them, the only thing that Li Qingyun was better than the three siblings was that Li Qingyun directly had the big clock of the most powerful celestial computer at that time, while the three of them did not have the configuration of the celestial computer. Therefore, with the three of them here, it is easy to suppress the entire Sakar. Not to mention that this time they are accompanied by the powerful fighting force of Thornton. Thank you very much, Howard Duck could only say such a thank you at this time. Mr. Howard, welcome. Gao Xianzhen was walking towards this site at this time. This time, he led the team personally and made a warm welcome. Long time no see, Gao Xianzhen. Howard Duck could only pretend to smile at this time, and then greeted and shook hands with Gao Xianzhen. I wonder what is the matter that you specially invited us to come here this time, Howard Duck asked. He was asking even though he knew the answer. But before the other party really turned against him, he still had to pretend as much as possible. As a businessman, he couldn't defend these guys for no reason, otherwise once his reputation spread, he would not be able to survive in the universe in the future. Therefore, when Xianxia and the others were there, before the other party really showed any ill intentions, he would be like this now. I got an extremely precious ingredient in the universe, so I want to invite my good friend to enjoy it together. Gao Xianzhen still thought that his plan was flawless, so he still acted so contented. Come here, help take my distinguished guest's child down and take good care of him. Gao Xianzhen waved his hand to the men next to him, asking them to come forward and take the baby carriage from Daisy. Daisy already knew that these guys were going to do something bad to her child, so she was naturally unwilling to hand it over. So she immediately picked up the eggs from the baby carriage. When Gao Xianzhen saw Daisy like this, his expression immediately became serious. Everything had been going well so far, but why did something go wrong at the most critical moment? Logically speaking, since he invited the other party to the banquet and kindly took care of the child for him, the other party should not have such a big reaction. Howard the Duck was also looking at Daisy at this moment. He used his eyes to signal her to rest assured, but he could not tell Daisy that Xianxia and the others had already said that nothing would happen with this matter. So, even if Daisy knew what Howard the Duck was signaling, she still refused to let go, but took 2 steps back and pointed at everyone around her. Don't try to harm my child, or I will fight you to death, Daisy said. As a mother, she absolutely cannot tolerate any mistakes in her child. Even though Xianxia and the others said they would protect their children before they came, she still couldn't take the risk. Xianxia and Zhaoqing saw this scene and understood that this was the nature of a mother, so they didn't stop them, but just watched quietly by the side, waiting for the further development of the situation. What are you talking about? We just want to help you take care of your children with good intentions. How could we hurt your children? Gao Xianzhen hurriedly explained. He didn't want the big show he had carefully prepared to be ruined. Don't pretend here. You must know that my child is special, so you want to set a trap to frame us. Daisy didn't pretend anymore and directly exposed everything. You want to kill my child and then snatch his power? That's absolutely impossible. While Daisy was speaking, she had already retreated to Xianxia and the others, and even hid directly behind Xianxia and Zhaoqing, standing with Xiaoyan. Chapter 565, Yongdu also joins in the fun. Seeing his wife like this, Howard knew that there was no need to hide it anymore. Go Xianzhen, I treated you as a business partner, but you wanted to eat our child. You are too shameless. Howard pointed directly at Go Xianzhen, questioning him. He needed to let this guy give him an explanation. You actually knew it? Go Xianzhen was also very surprised. He didn't expect that all the things he secretly planned had been known by Howard. So, all this is true. Howard knew that his guess was correct when he heard Go Xianzhen's answer and looked at his expression, or that what Xianxia and the others said was correct. His child has become the target of all forces in the universe, and the purpose of Go Xianzhen inviting them here today is to deal with their child. Since you already know, I will no longer hide it. Go Xianzhen saw that everything had been exposed and no longer concealed it. All of this will be said sooner or later anyway, and now Howard Duck has arrived at his territory, on this planet Sacker. He doesn't believe that Howard Duck and his wife can resist him. Yes, I asked you to come here today for the purpose of eating your child. As long as I can cook and eat this egg you laid, I can obtain the extremely powerful energy in it, and then I will be the only strongest person in this universe. Go Xianzhen really didn't even bother to act. If you want to hurt our child, you have to get past us first. Howard Duck stood up directly and blocked Daisy. That's not up to you. While Go Xianzhen was speaking, he waved his hand to signal the soldiers around him to take action. These guys who have already done too many bad things, how could they care about the reaction of Howard Duck and Daisy? Moreover, for them, what Go Xianzhen wants to eat is just a duck egg, so they will eat it. Even if Go Xianzhen wants to eat a living child at that time, they will not care. Their planet Sacker was originally a world of cannibalism. Sultan, come. Xianxia shook his head and waved to Sultan. Sultan was immediately excited when he saw that Xianxia actually let him do it. Okay, he agreed, then rushed out and rushed towards the soldiers. In just one move, a guy holding an electric baton was directly knocked away by Sultan, dozens of meters away. This was the case when Sultan deliberately held back. If he didn't care so much and just killed him, he would probably be able to smash the soldier into a puddle of mud. What? Go Xianzhen was also shocked when he saw this scene. Everyone come together, use weapons, it doesn't matter if you kill him, the captain in charge of command shouted loudly. When the soldiers around heard the captain's words, they immediately adjusted their combat mode, took out long-range laser weapons and started to attack Sultan. At this moment, Sultan didn't care about these lasers at all. They were just some energy-based shooting weapons. For an ultimate beast warrior like Sultan, such weapons could not break the defense of his skin. The appearance of this scene naturally surprised the surrounding Sacker warriors. But they were helpless. They had lived on Sacker for a long time, and they were all very aware of the horror of Go Xianzhen under his rule for many years. If they did not follow Go Xianzhen's orders, they would definitely be executed by Go Xianzhen, and they might even be thrown into the Colosseum to be tortured to death by those fierce cosmic slaves. Therefore, even though they knew that Sultan was very dangerous, they still rushed forward without hesitation, and they tried their best to kill Sultan. Sultan would not show mercy to these soldiers. He summoned two axes with both hands and threw them out directly. The axes rotated in the air and cut all the soldiers in the front row in half. A large number of soldiers fell down in an instant, shocking the other soldiers around, and even Go Xianzhen himself was completely shocked at this moment. Thornton's strength is too strong, stronger than all the warriors on the Sokka Star of Go Xianzhen. I'm afraid that even the soldiers in the Colosseum can't compete with him. Let's go, let's leave here, Xianxia said to Howard Duck beside him. Okay, Howard Duck also knew that this was a place of trouble, and it would be better for himself and his family to leave early. This egg belongs to me. Suddenly, a space wormhole opened, and then a person wearing a helmet and a special spacesuit jumped out directly from it. An arrow flew out, aiming at Zhao King and Xiaoyan who were blocking Daisy at the moment. There was also a rope thrown out, which went directly to the egg in Daisy's arms. Yaka whistle arrow, Yongdu. Seeing the appearance of this arrow, Zhao King and the others immediately knew who was coming. So, without saying a word, he summoned Xingming directly, blocking the Yaka whistle arrow while throwing it toward Yongdu. Yongdu used to fight with remote control of the Yaka whistle arrows, which could be said to be invincible. But today, his Yaka whistle arrows were easily blocked by others, and the weapons used by the opponent were even more powerful than his own. Facing the star life that was coming towards him, Yongdu could only retreat quickly to avoid it. As for wanting to snatch the child from Daisy's arms, it was impossible at this moment. Should we kill him directly? Xiaoyan was also eager to try at this time, and her dark silver wings could be summoned at any time. Let him go, so that we can follow him and find out who is behind him. Zhao King did not let Xiaoyan kill him, but after forcing Yongdu to retreat, she let him leave on his own. Yongdu did not stop at all, because he realized that the people he was facing at the moment were very powerful and he could not fight them alone. If he continued to stay, not to mention that the mission would not be completed, even his life would be completely left here. So, after he failed in one attack and dodged Zhao King's attack, he immediately chose to escape. He wanted to leave this place. What surprised him was that Zhao King and Xiaoyan did not pursue him, and even the remote-controlled weapon did not attack him again. Maybe the other party just wants to protect the egg. In the end, Yongdu could only think this way. Otherwise, he could not explain why the other party let him go. Chapter 566, The Reappearance of Black Magic. Yongdu left the scene, returned to his spaceship, and drove the spaceship to flee in a panic. On the other side, Zhao King had already dropped a tracking device into a hidden corner of the spaceship through remote control. Through this remote tracking device, Zhao King can know all of Yongdu's situation in real time. Even if Yongdu has left this star field directly and gone to the other end of the universe, as long as he has not left this universe to go to the multiverse, he can track him. The things created by Super God technology are absolutely effective. There is nothing to pay special attention to here, just use the space wormhole to leave, Xianxia said. Zhao King heard what Xianxia said and immediately began to solve the wormhole, and then in just a moment, he transferred all the people present to Howard Duck's spaceship. Go Xianzhen and his soldiers looked at Xianxia and others who suddenly disappeared, and they all stayed in place for a long time before they recovered. However, after recovering, he felt a headache looking at the corpses and blood on the ground. How come there are 4 strange guys around Howard Duck? Go Xianzhen remembered at this moment that the 4 guys who came with Howard Duck were not ordinary people. Needless to say, the crocodile Thornton could easily deal with his entire escort team. Zhao King was able to easily block Yongdu's attack and beat him back. And just at the last moment, Xianxia just said a word, and then the other party was suddenly teleported away. Although he didn't know these 3 teenagers and the crocodile, there was no doubt that the strength of these 4 guys who came out of nowhere must be very strong. It seems that it will not be easy for the people from all the major forces in the universe to snatch this egg with magical power this time. Go Xianzhen sighed, and he himself had completely given up the idea of snatching the egg at this time. Because he knew very well that he could never do this with his own strength. On the other side, Xianxia and others who had returned to the spaceship immediately drove the spaceship and chased in the direction where Yongdu left. You have the ability to teleport, why don't you just chase after Yongdu and kill him? Howard the Duck asked directly while looking at Xianxia in front of him. We are not going to kill anyone, we just want to see who let Yongdu come here. Xianxia and his friends came out to travel in the multiverse, not to kill people, they just wanted to have fun. Investigating who is secretly trying to get the egg, and what the person who secretly led them to this universe wants him to do, these are what Xianxia and his friends want to do. Brother, Yongdu's spaceship has stopped, and he is now in the void. Zhao King reported the latest situation. It's the void? It seems that the collector wants this egg, so he hired Yongdu to steal the egg. Xianxia knew who was behind it when he heard Zhao King say the name of the place. Go Xianzhen and the collector are actually 2 brothers born in ancient times. They don't have very powerful powers, but they have eternal life. Relying on the knowledge and wealth accumulated over a long period of time, they each occupied a special area in the universe and established their own territory. The collector occupied the remains of a head of the god group, and made a fortune by digging out the remaining materials in the remains of the god group to obtain a large amount of useful materials. In the end, he developed the Land of Nothingness Inter-Distribution Center for black goods in the entire universe, where all kinds of shady items in the universe were traded. Go Xianzhen had a miserable start. He was framed by the collector, and then accidentally fell into the cosmic portal and was teleported to Sakar. When he first went there, the planet was still a very desolate planet. Although there were other humans, no one could be his opponent. So he quickly relied on the special environment there to establish his own territory, and then used a long time to develop it into a special planet that was no less than the Land of Nothingness. Go Xianzhen's life is more carefree than that of the collector, because he doesn't have to worry all day long, afraid that those guys who make secret deals will turn around and kill him. As long as Go Xianzhen doesn't provoke those who can't afford to provoke, No one will come to harm him. The collector is different. The things he collects have offended many people, and some of them are very valuable. If they are spread out, some people will want to kill people for the treasures. Then do we still need to go there? Zhao King asked. If it was just a collector, Xianxia would probably not be interested. After all, the collector's ability is not enough in front of them, so naturally it can't arouse their interest. I won't go for the time being, but you can continue to pay attention to the situation over there to see if there is. Brother, I detected the power of black magic. Zhao King suddenly interrupted Xianxia's words. The power of black magic. Xianxia was a little surprised. Since Dormammu's death, the power of black magic in the multiverse has become less and less. After all, without Dormammu, who spreads black magic between various multiverses all day long, ordinary people cannot touch the real dark magic even if they turn evil. The current situation is not very detailed. I have to spend some time to observe it continuously. Zhao King has started to upgrade the remote tracking device while talking. He needs to make the device play a greater role for him, and then let it help him understand the situation in the void faster and better. With Zhao King's operation, the remote tracking device was soon transformed. It was transformed from an eavesdropping device to a scanning machine that can directly scan the situation of the entire void. As for the upgrade method, with the ability of Super God technology, it can be done even if the distance is far. There is a result. Those who are active there are Cassilis and a large group of black magicians. They are all believers of the Dark Lord Dormammu, Zhao King reported to Xianxia. Dormammu? Didn't Dormammu have to be killed by my father a long time ago? Xianxia felt a little confused. How could a guy who had been eradicated at the root still be able to seduce dark believers? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 567 Nick Fury's Mistake. We can't get more detailed information with just this remote device, Zhao Qing said. Then go directly. We must understand clearly about the Dark Lord. Xianxia's idea was simple, that is, he must confirm whether the Dark Lord was really resurrected. If it was true, he must defeat the Dark Lord Dormammu, because this could be said to be the only chance for these young children to catch up with their father. Okay, Zhao Qing seemed to have thought of what Xianxia was thinking at the moment, and agreed directly. Zhao Yun, who was standing by, was also eager to try. Mr. Howard, turn around and go to the void, Xianxia said. Listening to Xianxia's words, Howard no longer hesitated, and turned around and headed for the void. If it weren't for the existence of Xianxia and the others this time, his child might have been eaten by Go Xianzhen and the others. So now he would definitely do what Xianxia and the others said. However, they had just adjusted the route, and a call came directly to their spaceship. Is it a call from S.H.I.E.L.D.? Zhao Qing read the information in the call as soon as it rang, but he was also shocked after reading it. S.H.I.E.L.D. is a special organization on Earth. In the universe where the Super God civilization is located, S.H.I.E.L.D. was destroyed a long time ago because it was infiltrated by Hydra, which eventually led to the collapse of the entire organization. But in this world, S.H.I.E.L.D. has always existed, and the most important thing is that S.H.I.E.L.D. has the ability to directly contact the spaceship where Howard the Duck is. This means that S.H.I.E.L.D. has not only not been destroyed by the infiltration of Hydra, but the organization has now developed to the point where it can enter the universe and intervene in some things in the universe. Mr. Nick Fury, is there anything you want to call me at this time? Howard the Duck answered the call. Because of Daisy, Howard the Duck has a good relationship with S.H.I.E.L.D. on Earth, at least it is an ally. We have received intelligence from the universe that you have an egg with extremely powerful energy in your hand. Is this true? Nick Fury also got straight to the point and asked directly. You don't want to take our child, do you? Daisy couldn't help it. She was from Earth, and she even had cooperation with S.H.I.E.L.D. But now S.H.I.E.L.D. suddenly contacted them and asked them about the egg. Thinking of those people who wanted to take their child before, Daisy subconsciously thought of Nick Fury as the same as those people. We won't harm your child, you can be absolutely assured, Nick Fury replied. Oh, Daisy's tension was relieved a little when she heard Nick Fury's words. But, I suggest you send this egg to Earth and let us S.H.I.E.L.D. protect it, Nick Fury said, and his words made Daisy, who had just relaxed a little, frown immediately. Didn't you say you wouldn't take our child? Daisy's tone was full of dissatisfaction and depression. I'm not planning to take advantage of your child, but when the remaining planets of your child are aligned, he will have extremely powerful power from the moment he is born. If he is handed over to you two novices, it may bring great harm to the universe, so, we at S.H.I.E.L.D. will just take him over and protect him carefully. When he is born in the future, we will also give him the best guidance so that he can use his innate power to better protect the peace of this universe. When Nick Fury spoke, he was so righteous. It was a face that was willing to sacrifice everything for the overall situation and to better protect the universe. However, this sounded so ironic to everyone on the spaceship. Mother's description is indeed correct. Although Nick Fury really wants to protect the Earth, his actions are very annoying. Xiaoyan complained to Xianxia and Zhaoqing through dark communication. When Li deals with various things, he is best at direct control. He wants to keep everything firmly in his hands and then kill all dangers in the cradle, Zhaoqing said. But this kind of thinking will often backfire, Xianxia said. Yes, you want to control everything, but people have their own thoughts. The more you want to imprison, the greater the resistance will be. You may even force a person who is not bad to be your opponent, Zhaoqing agreed with Xianxia's statement. If you want to control everything by force, you will inevitably have a counter effect in the end. When Qin Shi Huang unified the Six Kingdoms, he could do it by forceful military means, but after the complete unification, he still used strict laws to suppress everything, which led to counterattack. The remnants of the nobles hidden in various countries, and some people who did not know the truth, naturally developed a rebellious mentality when faced with such laws. When the first emperor was alive, his reputation was enough to deter everything, but when he died, all these problems were exposed at once. The reason why the Han dynasty was able to enter a prosperous era smoothly was because of its special arrangement of loose outside and tight inside. It was as tolerant as possible to ordinary people, but it used strong means to suppress the political groups. Therefore, if you want to manage a country, a force, or even the entire universe, you need to do this. Tight inside and loose outside. It seems to be very tolerant to the outside world, but in fact it is very strict inside. In the universe where the super god civilization is located, the super god civilization as a whole looks very loose. Li Qingyun basically doesn't care about anything, and each life planet is even in a state of independence to a large extent. But Li Qingyun has extremely strict management of the Super God Academy inside it, and it is even impossible for ordinary people to enter the Super God Academy. As long as the Super God Academy is still there, all the high-end technology and top power in the universe are in the hands of Li Qingyun. Then all other life planets, even other interstellar empires in the universe, will respect and obey the Super God civilization, Li Qingyun and the Super God Academy. S.H.I.E.L.D., they want to prevent danger, which is not wrong, but Nick Fury's approach is not appropriate. He can send people to help Daisy protect the child, or he can invite Daisy to live on Earth and take care of her as much as possible. But it is wrong to directly ask for the child to be taken away, and also say that S.H.I.E.L.D. will have to teach him in the future. That is completely too much. Chapter 568 Cassilis appears. No, this child is ours. We will never separate from him, and we will never hand him over to an agency like yours to teach, Daisy said, and then she hung up the call. Nick Fury wanted to take her child away. This was absolutely impossible. Sir, she hung up the call. Coulson turned around and looked at Nick Fury, who was now livid. Prepare the spaceship immediately. Nick Fury turned around and walked directly outside the communication room. Sir, you are going to the universe. Coulson followed behind, while signaling the staff next to him to prepare the spaceship. The egg is of great importance. I will never allow it to fall into the hands of two novices, so I must go to the universe myself and take it back, Nick Fury said. He really made up his mind this time. He wanted to go to the universe himself, to personally take Daisy's egg back. Seeing Nick Fury like this, Coulson could only follow closely behind him, and then go to the universe with Nick Fury to find Daisy. On the other side, Howard the Duck drove his spaceship and brought Xianxia and the others to the outside of the void. You stay here, I'll go over and take a look, Xianxia said, and then he left the spaceship in a flash. In space, his body quickly shrank to the size of an ant, and then flew towards the void. Shrinking his body, is he Ant-Man? Daisy had heard about Ant-Man, although she had never seen him with her own eyes, but she knew that Ant-Man's ability was to make himself smaller. My eldest brother is not Ant-Man. Xiaoyan immediately denied Daisy's idea. Then how can he become smaller? Daisy looked at Xiaoyan in confusion. We also have PIM particles in our hands, and we can shrink them by using PIM particles, Zhaoking answered Daisy in front of Xiaoyan. He couldn't let Xiaoyan speak out more secrets without restraint. Oh, hearing Zhaoking's answer, Daisy nodded blankly. But in her heart, she was still confused. Because she didn't see any special uniform on Xianxia at all. Without a uniform, one can directly appear in space, and then shrink directly. That is definitely not something that can be done by simply obtaining PIM particles. Very cautious, Xiaoqing looked at the thoughts in Daisy's mind at the moment, but sighed helplessly. But for such things, he could only let Daisy think about it. It is impossible to completely conceal what Xianxia directly showed. Anyway, as long as they did not reveal it voluntarily, and the information revealed was not too important, it should not put the entire universe into crisis, which is enough. Xianxia, who left the spacecraft, has entered the void at this time. He found Yongu at the first time. However, in front of Yongu at this moment, a group of guys wearing black cloaks appeared. Casillas, Xianxia looked at those guys wearing black cloaks. The leader was Casillas in the database of the Super God Academy. When he was in the universe where the Super God civilization was, Casillas once wanted to summon Dormammu on Earth, but in the end, because he alarmed his father, he was finally solved by his father Li Qingyun himself. Casillas is obviously a magician living on Earth. How come he is in the universe, and he also brings such a large group of believers, and the dark magic power on him is very similar to that of Dormammu in the records? Xianxia was puzzled. Now he knew very well who these people were. But the problem was that the location where these people appeared and the power they possessed were what made Xianxia puzzled. The situation in this universe is really very different from other multiverses. From the current point of view, many situations that have appeared are different from other multiverses. Every planet and every force actually exists at the same time in a very strange way. Xianxia is getting more and more curious about this universe. He even wants to go around the universe to see if there is anything different in other places. Who are you? Where are the collectors? Yondu looked at these guys in black cloaks in front of him with a very serious expression. Where is the egg? Casillas did not answer Yondu, but asked directly about the egg. Your identity is unknown. Why should I explain the situation to you? Yondu is a very famous plunderer in the universe, and not everyone can point fingers in front of him. Since you don't want to say it, don't blame us for taking action. After Casillas finished speaking, he stretched out his hands and two transparent magic ropes were tied to the place where Yondu was. Yondu was well prepared. When he saw the two magic ropes appear, he immediately stepped back. At the same time, he whistled, and the aka whistle arrow flew out from his waist and shot towards the magic rope. The magic rope was directly broken by the aka whistle arrow in mid-air, but almost at the same time, all the guys in black cloaks around him began to act. They used the same ability as Casillas to summon magic ropes and grab Yondu. Yondu was alone, facing so many dark magicians, he had no way to compete with them. In addition, he didn't have the egg on him, so he was naturally even more unwilling to entangle with these guys. So, he turned around and started to run away almost immediately. Yondu opened a space wormhole and jumped in directly. At the moment he jumped in, an egg inexplicably fell out of his body and landed at the place where the wormhole disappeared. When Casillas saw the fallen egg, he simply asked everyone to stop. Anyway, their goal was to find this egg. As for this egg, it was naturally thrown by Xianxia. Xianxia wanted to find out what these dark magicians wanted to do, so he directly imitated the egg laid by Howard the Duck and Daisy, and used genetic cloning to create an egg that looked almost exactly the same. Now, Casillas and his friends got the egg, and because they took it directly from Yondu, they didn't have any doubts at all. Go, take this egg and show your real secrets. Xianxia was looking forward to it. He expected Casillas and his companions to give him some surprises. It would be best if Dormammu, the Dark Lord of the Dark Dimension, was really still alive. Chapter 569, Dormammu's Survival. Xianxia followed Casillas and other believers. After being shrunk by PIM particles, he covered his whole body with dark energy to block the energy released by himself. It was impossible for those believers to find Xianxia's whereabouts. So, they soon came to hall. Here, Casillas placed the egg in the center of the hall, and then everyone dispersed and stood around the hall. As these people chanted spells and made corresponding magic movements, a huge magic circle was quickly formed. After the formation of this magic circle, Xianxia felt the fluctuations in the surrounding space, and he saw the appearance of a huge portal. However, this portal was in a half-open state. It could let some things out, but not completely out. This is a dimensional limitation, a world barrier. Xianxia looked at this scene and quickly determined the key to the existence of such a problem. Dormammu was in this situation at the beginning. Because of the suppression of the real world, the body has never been able to enter the real world. Only when the formation that seals him is destroyed, and then the barrier between the dark dimension and the real dimension disappears, can Dormammu really come. But Dormammu should have died long ago. Xianxia figured out everything in his heart, but he couldn't figure out why Caecilius opened such a channel. Because according to reason, this channel used to let Dormammu communicate with the real world, should not summon the Lord of the Dark Dimension, Dormammu. But soon, Xianxia got the answer. Just inside the open portal, a group of black fog appeared, and a huge head gradually took shape in the black fog. This head is the head of the Dark Lord Dormammu, but compared to the appearance he had shown on the earth of the super god civilization before, the head presented by Dormammu has a sense of illusion. Master, the moment they saw Dormammu, all the believers knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Dormammu. Dormammu nodded. He was very satisfied with the believers in front of him, especially when he saw the egg in the middle of the hall. He showed a greedy and expectant look. You did a good job, Dormammu said with appreciation. This is what we should do, Master. Caecilius raised his head slightly, but still knelt. When I fought with Li Qingyun, I was directly killed by him. I was already in a situation where I was doomed to die, but at the critical moment, because my soul has always been placed in the dark dimension, a small part of my soul has been retained in it. Now, after more than 10 years of self-repair, I can get in touch with you believers again, and today, as long as I can get this egg, with the energy contained in this egg, I should be able to achieve rebirth, and this time, I will no longer be expelled from the real world, and can only be trapped in the world of the dark dimension. Lingering on, Dormammu said. At this moment, he was very emotional, because he knew very well that he should have been a dead man, and he survived only by luck. Because he couldn't enter the real world completely, a trace of his soul remained in the dark dimension. Also, after Li Qingyun killed him, he didn't directly enter the dark dimension and occupy the entire dark dimension like he did to the god of the underworld, Zizan, so he left Dormammu a place to nurture his soul. With these two foundations, plus his believers in this universe, Dormammu has a chance to revive again. Is that what happened? Xianxia was in a hidden corner beside him, watching everything that was happening at this time, listening to Dormammu's sighs, and finally figured out the whole situation. Father doesn't seem to be the kind of person who would be careless. It seems that the situation in this dark dimension is a little different from the chaotic dimension, so Father deliberately didn't go to occupy the dark dimension. Xianxia didn't believe that Li Qingyun would let Dormammu go because of carelessness. Li Qingyun didn't rule the dark dimension, there must be some special reasons for that place. However, if he wants to know what's going on, he will have to go to the dark dimension himself later. Start the reincarnation ceremony immediately. I will enter this egg and use the life in the egg to reincarnate and revive, Dormammu said. When Caecilius and others heard Dormammu's words, they immediately stood up and began the resurrection ceremony. Through the black magic of these believers, Dormammu's soul was merged with the egg. They wanted to transfer Dormammu's soul to the life in the egg. Turn, transfer and rebirth quickly. I want to see what the result will be if Dormammu is reincarnated into a duck egg and becomes a duck. Xianxia looked at the ceremony in front of him and the believers who were constantly chanting spells, and he couldn't help but start looking forward to it. Even a person like him who usually doesn't smile and is very serious, facing such a situation at this moment, he also has an extremely strong interest. However, the situation did not go as he guessed. When Dormammu was halfway through the reincarnation ceremony, he suddenly reacted and roared angrily. Stop it, what are you doing? This is just an ordinary duck egg. Do you want me to turn into a duck and reincarnate into the real world? Dormammu roared. He trusted his believers immensely, but after everything started, he was about to reincarnate into an ordinary duck egg. How could Dormammu not be angry? How is this possible? Caecilius was also shocked when he heard Dormammu's roar. He quickly stopped the ceremony, then quickly walked forward and picked up the egg. Using the magic power in his body, Caecilius felt the life energy in the egg. Although the egg laid by Howard the Duck and Daisy was also a duck egg, it contained human life genes and extremely powerful energy, which was easy to sense. Now, under Caecilius's induction, He soon discovered the truth of the egg. This is actually a duck egg. Cassilis was shocked. He was extremely shocked by the duck egg in his hand. He almost made Dormammu, the Dark Lord whom they worshipped so much, reincarnate into a duck egg. Chapter 570. Are you his child? It is impossible for a normal duck to lay an egg that big, and we stole this egg from Yondu. When we defeated the Collector before, the Collector did say that he had asked Yondu to steal Howard the Duck's egg back, Cassilis hurriedly explained. He couldn't let Dormammu misunderstand. He absolutely couldn't let Dormammu lose his trust in him and abandon his believers. This egg is indeed not simple. It should be made by imitating Howard the Duck's egg through genetic cloning. Dormammu also slowly calmed down at this time. He believed that his believers would not betray him, because they had no reason to do so. Gene cloning imitation, Cassilis was shocked. If nothing happened, who had cloned their own children? Could it be that Howard the Duck already knew that someone was eyeing his child, so he deliberately arranged this to deliberately confuse the eyes of the major forces in the universe? Cassilis looked at Dormammu. He knew that Dormammu had forgiven him for what he had done before, and he could still gain Dormammu's trust. But in fact, his previous worries were unnecessary. Dormammu is now in a state of lingering life. Apart from the group of believers in front of him, Dormammu has no way to rely on the power of others. Therefore, in order to get Howard Duck and Daisy's eggs, he must rely on Cassilis and others. In this case, how could he not trust Cassilis, and how could he blame his believers? From the current situation, they should have known it, Dormammu said. However, with their abilities, they should not be able to clone such a similar egg in such a short time. Behind this, there may be someone else helping them. Although Dormammu did not know much about Howard Duck's family, at least he could be sure that it would be impossible for Howard Duck and Daisy to achieve such a degree. No, there seems to be other energy in this room. Dormammu suddenly frowned. Just now, when he was thinking, he suddenly sensed a hint of danger and felt a familiar energy. Who is it? Cassilis and all the other believers immediately turned around and looked around. There, Dormammu's gaze turned directly to the location of Scientia. Then, all of Dormammu's believers looked over, and Cassilis also noticed the shrunk Scientia hiding in the corner at this time. It's Ant-Man. This guy should have used Pym particles to shrink his body. Cassilis came from Earth, and he knew some famous superheroes on Earth. Everyone, attack together, and we must catch this guy, Cassilis shouted loudly, and then all the believers attacked Scientia at this moment. Scientia was very calm in the face of these attacks. He just stood up casually, and then his body quickly grew larger and returned to his normal size. Around his body, the space-time shield formed by dark energy blocked all the attacks from the believers. Dormammu, you are so lucky. My father has killed you, but you still have a trace of soul left. Scientia ignored the others and looked up at Dormammu. Your father? Could it be that you are his child? Dormammu listened to Scientia's words, looked at the child in front of him, and a look of horror appeared on his face. Yes, I am the son of the Lord of Shin. Scientia gave the answer without hesitation. You? Dormammu was terrified and even wanted to escape. He was not afraid of Scientia, but Li Qingyun, and he was afraid to the extreme. Today, even if he could successfully reborn with the help of Howard Duck and Daisy's child, and could also master more powerful power, he would never dare to provoke Li Qingyun again. Because Dormammu knew that Li Qingyun's strength was much stronger than before, and was at the same level as the five gods, or even stronger than some of the five gods. Therefore, even if Dormammu is restored to his heyday, even if he had stronger power, he would only hide away from where Li Qingyun was, and then be at ease as before, being a mountain king. It would be great if he could not live in such a miserable state in the next life, but he still wanted to challenge Li Qingyun. Isn't that just courting death? Knowing Scientia's identity at this moment, he was afraid that Li Qingyun was also nearby, so he wanted to escape quickly. But if he thought about it carefully, if Li Qingyun was really here, it would be too late for him to escape. With Li Qingyun's strength, if he really wanted to deal with him, even if Dormammu fled back to the Dark Realm, Li Qingyun could catch up in minutes. Therefore, Dormammu's original action of escaping stopped at this moment. He looked at Scientia in front of him, looking at this child who was just an underage Li Qingyun no matter how he looked at it. If I leave now, can we pretend that nothing happened, and you can't tell anyone in your super civilization that I'm still alive? Dormammu didn't want to provoke Li Qingyun, so he didn't want to have a direct conflict with Scientia now. If Scientia could keep the secret that he was still alive, if Scientia could stop pestering him, he could pretend that all this had never happened. I'm sorry, now that I know you're still alive, you don't have a chance to live anymore. Xianxia's words meant very simple, that is, Dormammu is dead. Do you really want to kill me? Dormammu's tone became gloomy at this moment. If I didn't know you were still alive, it would be fine. Now that I know, I will kill you anyway, Xianxia answered, and the tone did not give the other party any room for tact. You want to rely on your own strength to deal with me? Aren't you a little too naive? Dormammu was afraid of Li Qingyun, but he felt that the Xianxia in front of him was just that. Even if Xianxia inherited a powerful force from his father, even if Xianxia possessed a divine weapon given by Li Qingyun, how could a child who had not yet reached adulthood threaten Dormammu, the Lord of the Dark Dimension? Chapter 571, Thoughts of Being a Son. What? Do you think I can't deal with you? Xianxia looked at Dormammu in front of him, but he was full of confidence. A little guy who hasn't even grown all his hair dares to look down on me. Dormammu was also angry. He was the Lord of the Dark Dimension. Although he was now in decline, he was still a very powerful black magician. But now he was looked down upon by a little guy like Xianxia. How could he have any face if this got out? I not only look down on him, but also despise him. Xianxia really didn't give Dormammu any face. You are looking for death? Dormammu was angry. He opened his huge mouth directly, and a red light immediately spewed out of his mouth and shot straight at Xianxia. Xianxia was not panicked at all in the face of Dormammu's attack. He casually raised one hand, and a shield immediately appeared on his hand, directly blocking the light. Dormammu didn't have much energy now, so he didn't attack for a long time. After this attack was blocked, he stopped directly. Caecilius, you guys take him down. Dormammu looked at Caecilius and other dark believers beside him. Yes, Master. Caecilius did not hesitate at all. In his opinion, Dormammu did not continue to attack only because his soul was restricted outside the real universe, so he could not launch a stronger attack on Xianxia. Dormammu's own strength was still very powerful. Therefore, they would carry out Dormammu's orders without compromise. In their hearts, their beliefs were the most noble, and the people they believed in were also extremely powerful. Let's go together, Caecilius said, and then rushed out first. He used magic to condense a large number of transparent blades and threw them towards the location of Xianxia. Xianxia stood in place, grabbed his right hand in front of him, and a golden spear appeared in his hand. The spear rotated rapidly in his hand, forming a circular shield. The magic blades thrown over fell on the rotating eternal spear and were directly rebounded by the divine power contained in it. The reason why the eternal spear was used to form a shield instead of the original shield was for this reason. These reflected transparent blades instantly penetrated the body of a dark believer. However, these dark believers had already abandoned their original lives in order to obtain more powerful power, so after these transparent blades passed through his body, although they caused him some injuries, they did not kill him directly. Zhaoqing, do you have any information about Dormammu's dark believers? Send me a copy. Xianxia looked at the situation and knew that the dark believers he was facing now were no longer ordinary creatures. Therefore, he needed to know more about them in order to find a more accurate way to deal with them. Dark believers? Could it be that you met Dormammu's men? Zhaoqing heard Xianxia's question and immediately asked back in surprise. Dark believers are the believers of Dormammu, the Lord of the Dark Dimension, and these believers must be affected by dark magic and become pure black magicians before they can be identified as true dark believers. Not only Dormammu's men, I also met Dormammu himself here. Xianxia communicated with Zhaoqing while dealing with the attacks of these dark believers. Zhaoqing was shocked. This is Dormammu, who was defeated by their father more than 10 years ago. Unexpectedly, he was resurrected today. This Dormammu is a remnant soul. It should be some of the power left in the dark dimension that has been recondensed. Xianxia knew what Zhaoqing was thinking at the moment, so he immediately told her his guess. Well, it's possible, Zhaoqing said. After my father defeated Dormammu, he did kill him. It's just that my father didn't rule the entire Chaos Dimension at the same time as he did with the Hades god Sithin. As the Lord of the Dark Dimension for billions of years, it is normal for Dormammu to leave some special means in the Dark Dimension to protect himself. Zhaoqing analyzed, and he believed that the situation should be as he guessed. Well, it should be like this. Xianxia originally thought so. Okay, give me the information of the Dark Followers. Let me see what the situation is. Xianxia is now fighting with the Dark Followers, and he still needs to get intelligence as soon as possible. Okay, I'll pass on the information of the Dark Believers to you right away. Zhao King is a walking clock. The amount of data stored in his database is comparable to the clock when Li Qingyun first got it. Xianxia quickly received the data information from Zhao King. Looking at the detailed situation of the Dark Believers and the methods to deal with them, he immediately activated the Spear of Eternity in his hand. Using light attribute energy could weaken the dark energy in the Dark Believers. Flame-level weapons and the thunder power in the Spear of Eternity are all light attribute energy, Xianxia said as he slashed the Spear of Eternity forward. At the moment the Spear of Eternity fell, a bolt of lightning burst out from the spear and fell on one of the Dark Believers. Previously, these Dark Believers were not hurt much by the magic blades that were thrown out and bounced back many times. But at this moment, the Dark Believer who was hit by the thunder was completely shattered in an instant, turning into countless molecules and dissipating in the air. At this moment, all the Dark Believers subconsciously took 2 steps back, and Caecilius's face was filled with horror. How is this possible? How can you kill us? The reason why Caecilius believed in Dormammu was because Dormammu could bring him eternal life, and with the blessing of dark energy, even if he was injured, it would not be fatal. But now, the opponent just killed one of their companions with a simple blow. The facts are in front of us, what else can we do? Xianxia didn't care how shocked Caecilius was. He has now found a way to kill these Dark Believers. He just needs to kill them all, and then kill Dormammu. As long as he can kill Dormammu this time, he can proudly tell his father when he goes back that he has solved a problem that his father couldn't completely handle at the beginning. Which child doesn't want to prove himself to his father? Chapter 572 Thornton's Obstruction. Xianxia's attack became more fierce. Every time the Eternal Spear was swung, lightning or golden energy blasted out. Those Dark Believers no longer dared to blindly bear Xianxia's attack as before. They began to dodge constantly, and even directly opened the mirror space to reverse the layout of the entire space, trying to make Xianxia lose his foothold. But Xianxia has the ability to fly. After all this started, he flew directly into the air and was not affected by the walls that kept changing on the ground. However, the moment they entered the mirror space, Dormammu had already run away. The lingering Dormammu actually abandoned his believers and ran away alone. Damn it, I didn't expect that he could abandon his only remaining believers so easily. Xianxia looked at Dormammu who had left, and gradually lost interest in these Dark Believers in front of him. Now he didn't even want to kill them. Because he was afraid that if he really killed all these guys, no one would help him lure Dormammu out. HMPH, I'll let you go today, Xianxia snorted coldly, opened a portal directly, and then disappeared into the portal. Seeing Xianxia leave, Caecilius finally breathed a sigh of relief, but when he turned around, he found that his original followers were now less than half of what they were at the beginning. This battle had not lasted long, and his losses were so huge. Xianxia passed through the portal and returned to Howard the Duck spaceship outside the void. Seeing Xianxia coming back, Xiaoyan rushed over immediately. Brother, how is the situation over there? Have you caught that guy named Dormammu? Xiaoyan is also very excited now. She also wants to see what her father's expression will be when Xianxia sees the news that he killed Dormammu and passes it back to the super god civilization. No, that guy used his men to delay me, and then he ran away, Xianxia answered, and his tone was obviously depressed. But it's not his fault. As a son, it's not easy to find an opportunity to prove himself to his father, especially when his father is the most powerful man who has never appeared in the infinite multiverse. Dormammu is hiding in the dark dimension. What he shows now is just a projection of him. If we want to deal with him, we may have to go to the dark dimension. Zhao King also came over. He also wanted to deal with Dormammu, even if he had to go to Dormammu's territory. So, Zhao King, you also want to chase him to the dark dimension? Xianxia heard the meaning in Zhao King's tone, and the original depression seemed to disappear at this moment. It seems that you have had this idea for a long time, big brother. Zhao King also smiled at this time. As long as the big brother agrees to this matter, they can do it, because Xianxia is in charge here. What Xianxia is thinking in his heart is whether he can get the support of Zhao King and Xiaoyan. Now Zhao King's idea is the same as his own. With Xiaoyan's personality, it is also easy to get her to agree. However, this time they overlooked a person that Xianxia and Zhao King thought would not object, but he stood up directly at this moment. No, you can't go to the dark dimension, Crocodile God Thornton, an extremely belligerent beast man. He followed Xianxia and the others out this time with the purpose of finding something to do in the universe, and his favorite thing was to follow them to fight everywhere. But now, when he heard that Xianxia and the others were going to the dark dimension, he directly denied Xianxia and Zhao Qing's idea. Why? The three brothers and sisters asked almost in unison. The three of them were looking at Thornton with a very surprised expression at this moment, because they couldn't understand why the person who wanted to fight the most gave up when he knew there was a fight to fight. I know Dormammu, he is very strong, and you three are not his opponents. Thornton is very belligerent and wants to find someone to fight, but this does not mean that he is completely brainless. When Dormammu invaded the real dimension and the universe where our super god civilization was, Boss Li had to go to the chaotic dimension, so he asked all the super soldiers of our super god civilization to stay together to resist Dormammu. At that time, even the masters of the top 10 strong men, including Xianji King Hexi and Xianqi King Liangbing, were all united, but they were no match for Dormammu. Although the three of you are very strong, maybe even I, Thornton, may not be your opponent, but if you want to defeat Dormammu now, that is definitely not enough. Thornton is a person who experienced the war with Dormammu that year. At that time, his strength was not as strong as it is now, but now Xianxia and others are definitely not as strong as the Xianji King Hexi. Hexi, Angel Yan, Liangbing are all the top 10 strong men of the super god civilization, and the power they possess is, to some extent, even stronger than the top 10 strong men such as Thor and Captain Marvel. So many strong men besieged Dormammu that year but failed to take him down. In the end, it was Li Qingyun who came back and killed him completely. Now Xianxia and the others want to deal with Dormammu. How could Thornton agree to let them go? We know that Dormammu is very strong, and we also know what happened that year, but our actions this time also have our own ideas and considerations. Zhao Qing understood what Thornton was worried about, and he also knew the situation that year. And they all knew that although Thornton promised Li Qingyun to listen to Xianxia when he came out, if Thornton wanted to, he could contact Li Qingyun at any time. If their father and Li Qingyun knew about this, then it would be impossible for them to deal with Dormammu. Therefore, if they want to chase Dormammu in the dark dimension as they originally wanted, they still have to convince Thornton first. The current Dormammu is no longer the Dormammu of the past. After being killed by my father once, he is now in a lingering form, Xianxia explained. How are you sure? Thornton asked. I just fought with him, and Dormammu even attacked me directly, but his attack was easily blocked by me, Xianxia answered. Moreover, Dormammu appeared here this time, just to seize the egg laid by Mr. Howard and Daisy, and to be reborn through this egg, so that he can use the power in the egg to recover himself. Xianxia's explanation made Thornton's silly crocodile head fall into thought. Chapter 573 Loki is the most trustworthy? Is there really no problem? Thornton had been convinced by Xianxia and Zhao Qing, but he was still a little worried, in case Dormammu is pretending to be weak. I promise, there will be no problem, and, even if there is a problem, you can crush the crystal immediately. That's what Father gave us to contact him in a critical moment. No matter where we are, as long as we crush the crystal, Father will be able to sense it and come to us immediately, Zhao Qing said. In order to convince Thornton, he really said everything he could say, and even specially sent a crystal ball to Thornton. Thornton only felt a little bit of assurance after receiving the crystal ball. Without assurance, no matter how good Zhao Qing's words were, he would still be worried. Okay, since you all said so, and I have a crystal ball in my hand, I will believe you for the time being. Thornton looked at the crystal ball in his hand, and finally agreed with Zhao Qing and Xianxia's ideas. Just stay here temporarily and continue to track down Dormammu's whereabouts, or go directly to the dark dimension to settle accounts with Dormammu later. Who are you? Howard and Daisy both came up. They had just heard the conversation between Xianxia and Thornton. It was not until they heard these words that they really realized how powerful these people were. Their father had killed Dormammu. The three of them were actually confident that they had the ability to kill Dormammu directly. And the crystal ball could actually contact their father at any time in any world. All these things together explained to Howard and the others a crucial situation, that is, these three people have the ability to travel between the multiverse and fight against the Dark Lord Dormammu. And behind them, there is a mysterious father who is as powerful as the 5 legendary gods. It's already this time, it doesn't matter if I tell you. Xianxia knew that there was no need to hide it from Howard and his wife at this time. After all, they had just heard so much and had come into contact with a lot of relevant information. We are actually the children of the Lord of Shin. Zhao King came forward and gave them a detailed explanation, including who their father and mother were, and some things about the super god civilization. After listening to Zhao King's explanation, Howard the Duck and Daisy finally realized how special these 4 people were, and they also knew that they would never be bad people who coveted their eggs like the others. After all, the power that these 3 teenagers had at birth was no less than that of their unborn children, and they had such powerful parents that their potential was further developed. In comparison, although their children might have the same potential as them when they were born, they would definitely not be so lucky in their future growth. After all, Howard the Duck and Daisy would never be able to provide such good conditions for their children like their parents. We come from the multiverse. Once our background is leaked, the impact on the universe may be huge. Now that you know, there is nothing we can say, but I still hope that you will not easily spread our identity information and the situation of the super god civilization in the universe in the future, Zhao King said. He can now tell the couple in front of him about his background. But these news can no longer be spread. We understand this. We will keep it a secret for you and will never reveal it to anyone except here. Howard the Duck and Daisy looked at each other and then answered very seriously. Well, I believe you can do it, Zhao King nodded. It's already come to this time. The advice that should be given to them has been given. If they insist on leaking it later, the other things caused by it have nothing to do with them. The destruction of the universe is their own fault. Although they are responsible, they don't need to bear the main responsibility. Will you continue to protect our children? Daisy asked. She already knew the identities of Xianxia and the others, and knew that they wanted to chase Dormammu. But as a mother, she was still most concerned about the situation of her child. She was afraid that if Xianxia and the others left, no one would be able to help them take care of their children. Zhao King hesitated, turning her head to look at Xianxia. At this time, Xianxia had to decide what to do in the end. Do you have any trustworthy friends in this world who can help you protect your children? Xianxia asked. Daisy looked at Howard the Duck hesitantly, and Howard the Duck also looked at Daisy at this time. Now even the people from S.H.I.E.L.D. want to take the child away from us, and I'm afraid we can't find any superheroes on Earth, Howard the Duck said. Thor and Jane went to the universe for their honeymoon after they got married. I don't know where they are now, Daisy said. So, the only person who can be trusted now may be Loki. Howard the Duck thought about all the friends around him, and finally thought of the only candidate. Hearing Howard Duck's words, Xianxia and the other 2 were a little surprised. In this world, at such a critical moment, the person that the couple could trust the most was actually Loki. You know, whether in the universe where their original super god civilization was located, or in other parallel universes they passed along the way, Loki was a cunning god, and often played the role of a villain. It was only because of the appearance of Hela later, or because of some other reasons, that some decent Lokis were occasionally created. But even so, Loki was more trustworthy than all other superheroes, which still surprised Xianxia and the others. Maybe, the Loki in this universe is a very upright Loki. Zhao King sent a message to Xianxia, Xiaoyan and others. Okay, let's go over and take a look first. If we find that it is not credible, we can think of other ways at that time. Xianxia also knew that this was the only way for them to leave smoothly and go to the dark dimension at this time. So, they chose to lead Howard Duck's family immediately and head towards where Loki was. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 574 Loki wants to open a hotel. With Howard the Duck driving the spaceship, Xianxia and his companions quickly passed through the space wormhole and arrived at the planet where Loki was. This was not Asgard, but Jotunheim, the territory of the frost giants. Loki actually lives in Jotunheim. Xianxia and his companions looked at the planet they were on and immediately realized that the Loki they were looking for this time must be completely different from the one they knew before. Jotunheim is the hometown of the frost giants. But for Loki, this is the place he is most reluctant to face. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Loki had thought of using Asgard's Rainbow Bridge to directly destroy Jotunheim. In the multiverse, almost all Lokis also regard themselves as the gods of Asgard, and no Loki would choose to admit that he is a frost giant. The fact that the Loki in this universe can return to Jotunheim to live shows that he has accepted his identity as a frost giant. A Loki who can accept his true identity calmly is different from all the Lokis in other multiverses. The spaceship landed quickly and they all walked out of the spaceship. The situation in this Jotunheim is slightly different from the Jotunheim in the universe where the super god civilization is located. Although it is an ice and snow planet, it is not like there, where it is in a gloomy environment all day long. It is sunny here, and the atmosphere of the whole planet does not look so depressing. The light and darkness of a planet have a huge impact on the entire planet. After all, if it is an ice and snow planet with dim light, it will give people a bleak and gloomy feeling at first glance. But if there is enough light, this ice and snow planet looks like a very perfect ice and snow world that everyone can like. After all, many people still like to travel to the ice and snow world. As for long-term residents, that is another matter. Welcome, my first batch of tourists. When Howard the Duck brought Sciantia and others to Loki's location, a tall Loki with blue skin immediately walked towards them. At this moment, they were in a newly built hotel, a hotel built specifically for receiving tourists. Is Loki planning to build a hotel here and welcome people from all over the universe to come for vacation? Xiaoyan looked at the scene and immediately had a guess in his mind, and then complained to his two brothers. Looking at this situation, it should be. Zhao King gave a positive answer. Loki, you are not planning to build a tourist hotel here, are you? Daisy finally served as Xiaoyan's mouth and said the question that Xiaoyan just wanted to ask. Yes, this is the hotel I built, and I will soon recruit suitable tourists from the entire universe to travel. Loki gave a very crisp answer. It's too boring for me to live here, and this planet is a bit too deserted, but if I open a hotel and welcome many guests, then this planet will definitely be lively, and the beautiful snow scenery of Jotunheim can also be better displayed to the outside world. Loki said what he really thought in his heart, as well as his beautiful yearning for this hotel. Yes, he likes the lively atmosphere. He hopes that this planet can be like Asgard, which is lively and popular every day. Well, I wish you a busy time. Howard Duck gave his blessing. Thank you, Loki answered with satisfaction. By the way, why are you here today? Loki finally asked the most critical question. After all, although he wanted to run a hotel, the hotel had just been built, and many follow-up arrangements had not been made. He had not yet promoted it to the outside world. There should be no guests coming at this time. Actually, we are here to ask you to protect us. Daisy heard Loki's question and then told the real situation of her coming here. Ask me for protection? What happened? Loki was a little confused. With the identities and behavior styles of these two people in the universe, they should not provoke anyone, and no one would want to trouble them for no reason. It's like this, Daisy told the situation she was facing now. Now we can only find you to help us, Daisy said. No problem, Loki agreed very readily. After all, you are a good friend of my brother's girlfriend, huh? Listening to Loki's words, Daisy and Howard Duck were both confused. We are a family. It's my duty to help you. Loki said this originally unrelated identity, but he said it was a family. Yes. We are a family. Although they were confused, since Loki was willing to help, they were naturally happy to accept it. After all, they needed someone to protect themselves now. It seems that this Loki is trustworthy. Zhao King sent a message to Xiantia. He is trustworthy, but his father is not. Xiantia's answer to Zhao King made Zhao King suddenly turn around and look at the hill not far away. There, a group of frost giants were walking towards this side, and the one walking in front who looked very similar to Loki was the leader of the frost giant clan. He is a very ambitious guy, but he is just being obedient now because of his lack of strength. Zhao King carefully observed the frost giant king. Through the eye of insight, he could observe the frost giant king's thoughts. From the records of his dark plane data, they could understand what kind of person the frost giant king is. While Zhao King and Xiantia were learning about the frost giant king, he had already come to Loki. Father, seeing the frost giant king coming, Loki immediately walked up to him and greeted him. Yes, the frost giant king nodded first, then turned his head to look at Daisy. To be more precise, he looked at the egg in Daisy's arms. Are these your friends? Although he had already set his eyes on the egg in Daisy's arms, the frost giant king still pretended to want to understand the situation on Loki's side first. Yes, they are all my friends. They knew that I was going to open an inn, so they came here to show their support. Loki obviously knew his father's character, So he did not tell the Frost Giant King about Daisy's egg. Really? But this egg seems unusual to me, said the Frost Giant King, stretching out a hand to grab the egg in Daisy's arms. Chapter 575. Zeus also gets involved. The Frost Giant King was about to grab the egg, but an invisible energy suddenly appeared and blocked the egg. The Frost Giant King felt the resistance on his hand, and the expression on his face became more and more solemn. He looked up at Daisy, and then immediately turned his head to look at Howard the Duck. But no matter how he looked at these two people, they didn't seem to be able to create such a strong barrier that he couldn't break. Finally, the Frost Giant King had to focus his eyes on Sciantia and others. Because here, Howard the Duck, Daisy and Loki, he knew that these three people could not have such an ability. In addition to these three people, there were only Sciantia and his group here, and the Frost Giant King had never seen these people before. The key is that there is a humanoid crocodile next to these three teenagers. According to the Frost Giant King's experience over the years, people who appear with such strange companions like this often have more powerful power than themselves. Therefore, at this moment, the Frost Giant King has sufficient reason to suspect that Sciantia and his group are the ones who are blocking him at this moment. You are the ones who are stopping me. The Frost Giant King looked at Sciantia, the young man who was obviously the leader of the 3 men and 1 beast. Yes, I am stopping you. Sciantia did not hide it and told the Frost Giant King the answer directly. You are a dignified king of the Frost Giant clan. When your own son has promised to protect other people's children, you want to snatch other people's children away. People like you are simply shameful, Sciantia said, without any respect or avoidance in his words, and directly scolded the Frost Giant King. Good boy, how dare you insult me like this in my territory? The Frost Giant King was angry. He raised the spear in his hand and stabbed at Sciantia. Sciantia was not polite either. At the moment when the opponent launched the attack, he also raised his hand and threw out a silver shield. The shield directly grew larger in midair, and then hit the Frost Giant King violently, knocking him out in an instant. The whole journey was directly to dozens of meters away, and when it landed, it directly smashed a huge snow pit in the snow. Seeing their king being attacked, all the other frost giants immediately raised their weapons and rushed towards Sciantia. Let me do it. Seeing these frost giants attack, Thornton was immediately excited. He summoned 2 hand axes and rushed towards the frost giants in front. Sciantia looked at Thornton from behind and could only shake his head helplessly. This guy likes to fight, especially fighting with a huge guy like the frost giant. So, the two sides soon collided with each other, and a fierce battle occurred. It seemed that in order to better enjoy the process of fighting, Thornton did not even burst out his powerful strength, but simply used his own skills to entangle with these frost giants. With Thornton's participation, the frost giants were immediately blocked. Daisy and Howard Duck also understood what the situation was now. They hid behind Sciantia without hesitation, hiding between the 3 siblings Sciantia, Zhaoqing and Xian. The father of the friend they thought was the only one who could protect their child actually wanted to snatch their child away. At this point, the 2 of them could no longer trust anyone except Sciantia and them. Sciantia saw Howard and Daisy like this, and understood what the couple was thinking. At this point, Sciantia also knew that only if they stayed, they could better protect Howard and Daisy's children. Boom! A thunderous sound sounded, and the sky was covered with thunderclouds. A lightning bolt fell from the sky and struck directly on the hotel built by Loki, turning the entire hotel into ruins. Oh no, my hotel! Loki also felt a little collapsed at this moment. He had finally built a hotel, and it was expected to open for business soon, but now it was destroyed by a thunderbolt. Thor, even if I didn't protect the child of your girlfriend's friend, you can't blame me for it, right? It's not my fault. Loki felt very depressed now. In his opinion, the person who struck his hotel with thunder must be Thor. And the reason why Thor did this was because he failed to protect Daisy's child. Thor was taking revenge. You are wrong. It's not Thor who came, Zhaoqing reminded. Hearing his words, Loki suddenly raised his head and looked up at the sky. Ha ha ha. That egg belongs to a Greek gods. A wild laugh came from midair, and then a fat man sitting in a special flying vehicle flew out of the clouds. Zeus. Loki looked at the fat man and immediately recognized his identity. After all, he had lived in Asgard for more than 1,000 years. He was also the prince of Asgard before. Naturally, he often followed Thor to the land of the gods, and Zeus was the most active god king in the land of the gods. Hurry up, Hand over the egg to me." While Zeus was speaking, he held the thunder and blasted more lightning towards the bottom. Father once said that Zeus is a very arrogant and stupid guy, so I want to try and see what qualifications this guy has to be narcissistic here, Xiaoyan said, and then he spread his angel wings and flew high into the sky. Zeus, who was in the air, was also a little surprised to see someone flying towards him. Who dares to challenge the authority of the god King Zeus? Zeus looked at Xiaoyan flying towards him, without any fear, and still looked high and mighty. The authority of the god king? In my opinion, it's nothing but a fart. Xiaoyan didn't care about Zeus's expression at all, and continued to rush forward. Her right hand gently waved in the air, and more than a dozen silver blades appeared beside Zeus and bombarded him. At this moment, Zeus, who was originally very confident and thought that Xiaoyan was a mortal who wanted to provoke him, was also a little shocked. He didn't dare to take on Xiaoyan's attacks head-on, but immediately adjusted his direction and wanted to avoid it. However, he was obviously too slow to dodge, and many of those silver blades fell directly on his vehicle. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.